Chapter 973. Lu Xinchen was drenched in cold water. He couldn't even open his eyes. Not only was there water on his head, but there was also tea foam on it. In the end, Luo Xiaowan threw the teapot in her hand directly at Lu Xincheng's head. When Princess Chen left, she had specially warned him not to provoke him. This kind of person was not stingy, and he would definitely hit women. "You talk nonsense about our miss." The two servant girls stepped forward and pulled the tablecloth over, helping Luo Xiaowan to scold them. "Who wants to marry you? Look in the mirror and see what kind of person you are. How dare you think of our miss? You are a toad and think you are so great." The two servant girls were very eloquent. They scolded and smashed the plates. Those who reacted quickly immediately understood that this was obviously the miss of Duke Yanxiu's mansion that everyone had been talking about just now. She had heard the words just now and came here to fight. "Bitch!" Luo Xiaowan scolded Lu Xinchen, who had just wiped the water stains on his face and could open his eyes. Then she smashed another plate on his head. At this time, Lu Xinchen finally reacted. He avoided the plate that was smashed in front of him and was about to pull Luo Xiaowan's hand. The servant girl beside him suddenly bumped into Luo Xiaowan. Luo Xiaowan slapped Lu Xincheng's face hard. Lu Xinchen covered his face and immediately became furious. "Bitch, how dare you!" Lu Xinchen had been favored since he was a child. When he was young, he had never been beaten by anyone. At this time, he was actually beaten by Luo Xiaowan, who he despised the most. Then he looked at the friends around him who were still talking with him and saw that they were all timid and trembling. He was even more furious. He reached out to pull Luo Xiaowan and wanted to teach her a lesson. Luo Xiaowan wanted to run, but it was too late. One of her hands had been grabbed by him. In a panic, she raised her other hand and slapped him again. After 2 slaps, Lu Xincheng had already jumped up violently. He raised his hand and slapped Luo Xiaowan's face. The servant girl saw that it was not good and hurriedly stepped forward to block it. Half of the slap hit the servant girl, and the other half hit Luo Xiaowan's face. It didn't land, but the nail scratched her face, and a faint trace of blood immediately appeared on her face. "Murder! Help! Help!" Another servant girl screamed in a shrill voice. The shrill voice was so fierce that Lu Xinchen was so scared that he loosened his grip. The two servant girls hurriedly escorted Luo Xiaowan out. At this time, there was no need to do anything else. Many people in the tavern heard it and looked at the private room in shock. They saw the master and servant girls running out of the private room. One of them was obviously a Mississippi. At this time, her beautiful face was pale and her face was scratched. It was obvious that she had been beaten. "Someone come and save my mistress. That man is going to kill her," the servant girl screamed as she ran. Lu Xincheng chased after Luo Xiaowan and ran out. He wanted to hold Luo Xiaowan back. The current situation was obviously not good. He chased quickly, but Luo Xiaowan ran slowly. She caught up with him in a few steps. A servant girl rushed over to him and hugged his leg. She strode forward and begged, "Please let my mistress go. Please, please." While crying, she hugged Lu Xincheng's leg tightly and did not let him go forward. Lu Xincheng raised his leg impatiently and kicked the servant girl out. She fell heavily to the side and knocked over a table. Someone could not stand it and helped the servant girl up. While they were distracted, Luo Xiaowan rushed out of the door with another servant girl. A group of people came in and almost bumped into them. Fortunately, the people at the door reacted quickly and hurriedly dodged to the side. The servant girl ran slowly and fell at the door. The maid ran too slowly and fell at the door. She turned back and cried while turning around to stop Lu Xincheng. "You! Let my miss go. You've already hit my Mississippi. What else do you want? Do you want to kill my miss? For a prostitute, you? How can you do this? Miss is your fiancé. There were so many meanings in his words that many people stared at Lu Xincheng in shock. Someone could not help but curse, "Bitch. What a bitch. He actually wants to kill his legal wife for a prostitute. Not his legal wife, but his fiancée. What kind of marriage is this? Break it off quickly. If you really marry him, you won't be able to live for a day." While everyone was talking, Lu Xincheng had already reached the door. Luo Xiaowan's legs gave way and she fell outside the door. He could catch her in a few steps. In the current situation, of course, the sooner he caught Luo Xiaowan, the better. Lu Xincheng did not care about anything else and kicked the servant girl who was blocking the door again. This time, his foot did not fall, but he was blocked by someone. It was a young man in the group of people who had just come over. "Brother, you've gone too far," the young man said, lamenting in his heart that this was an unlucky year. He just came out for a drink with a few friends. How did he get into such a thing? This was the disadvantage of serving in the Ministry of Justice. When encountering such a thing, he had to intervene. "Why should I go too far? She is my fiancée." Lu Xincheng was about to catch Luo Xiaowan. At this time, he was interrupted. He immediately gritted his teeth in anger and raised his leg again. This time, it was aimed at the young man. Did they really make a move? The young man was very angry. His skills were not bad. He turned around to avoid Lu Xincheng's foot, and then kicked Lu Xincheng's foot hard. This kick was much more powerful than Lu Xincheng's. "Since she is not my fiancée, it has nothing to do with you. Even if she is my fiancée, you have violated the law by beating her so violently. Our young master serves in the Ministry of Justice." The manservant beside him said very cleverly. Since he was serving in the Ministry of Justice, it was natural for him to intervene in this kind of thing. "Your Excellency, please save our Mississippi." The servant girl's eyes lit up at the door, and she immediately burst into tears at the young man. At this time, Luo Xiaowan also stood up and walked to the young man's side. She suddenly knelt down and sobbed, "Your Excellency, I want to sue this man. Not only did he cheat my marriage, but he also wanted to kill me. I can't accept this marriage. Your Excellency, please cancel it. Our Ministry of Justice, doesn't care about this matter." The young man said awkwardly. This kind of thing was really not under the Ministry of Justice's jurisdiction. Shouldn't it be discussed by the family to cancel the marriage? Your Excellency, if this marriage continues, our miss will die. Please help us file the case, otherwise we won't be able to go back now." The servant girl, who had hit the table inside just now, also rushed out at this time and knelt on the ground while crying. The master and servants looked extremely miserable. "Your Excellency, please make the decision for this Mississippi. This man is not a good person at first glance. He also called many female prostitutes over and played with the women of the brothel. They have been making a scene in the private room for a while." Someone saw Lu Xincheng go in and also saw several female prostitutes follow him in. The sound of flirting and talking was loud. At first glance, it was obvious that he was not a decent man. "Look at this Mississippi. She is so pitiful. Who arranged this marriage? He doesn't want his own daughter to die. It's so pitiful. This miss will die after marrying him. Which family is this playboy from? He even wants to he even wants to kill his wife." Some people were asking, some were sighing, and some were looking at Lu Xincheng's face. Lu Xincheng was so angry that his face turned blue. Luo Xiaowan's strength was small. She slapped him twice, but his face did not swell. However, when he slapped Luo Xiaowan's face, it became red and swollen in a short time. It looked very scary on her fair and tender face. Luo Xiaowan was originally very delicate. At this time, her eyes were full of tears and she was extremely sad. Hearing what everyone said, she stood up shakily and stared at Lu Xincheng. This kind of gaze made Lu Xincheng panic. He dodged her eyes. He didn't know how to deal with the current situation. Since no one will uphold justice for me, then I will die. Luo Xiaowan said as she was about to bump into a pillar on one side. When the two maids saw that it was not good, they rushed over and hugged one of them and cried sadly. Miss, don't commit suicide. Miss, someone will definitely be willing to uphold justice for you. Luo Xiaowan was hugged by the two maids and could not move. She struggled hard twice but failed to break free. She lowered her head and shed tears. Help her. She looks so pitiful. Zhang Lanjue looked as if he couldn't bear to see it. He pulled the young man's sleeve and said, Yes, help her. Let's make a case first. Whether it succeeds or not, we can talk about it later. At least the current problem has been solved. Some people in the group helped to speak up. From the words of the people around them, they had a general understanding of the situation. They did not have a good impression of Lu Xinqing in front of them. A person who could do such a thing was really not a human being. For the sake of a prostitute, he had beaten his fiancée and made her cry and beg for mercy in the street. Was he still a human being? The young people brought by Zhang Lanjue were all from good families and had good characters. They all helped to speak up. Well, I will make a case for this miss. The young man said helplessly. In the current situation, it was best to file a case. If there was nothing wrong, it would be best. If there was something wrong, it should be filed. What case? We are just having a dispute about our marriage. When Lu Xinqing heard that they were really going to file a case in the Ministry of Justice, he was also anxious. He said loudly and stood up with the help of the door frame to defend, We are engaged and have a marriage certificate. Why should we file a case? Even if there is a little quarrel, it is not a big deal. I don't need you to be nosy. Lu Xinqing was also a tyrant in his own territory. In the past, only others gave in to him, and he never gave in to others. What he said was even more disgusting. Looking at his face and Luo Xiaowan's pitiful look at the door, they felt that he was not worthy. How could such a person be worthy of this miss? Many people were on Luo Xiaowan's side. After hearing what Lu Xinqing said, they couldn't help but say, engaged and married. Is it the prostitute upstairs? The prostitute upstairs is not bad for you. A tortoise and a mung bean. I like it. You beat the miss like this, and you still don't let anyone care about it. Do you think that the capital is your family? Are you a prince or a crown prince? You don't know what kind of person you are. Which good family's daughter is willing to match you? Everyone will be angry if they don't let you go to the Ministry of Justice for a few days. Don't you think so? Yes, that's the reason. You beat people in the street, and we are all witnesses. Take them to the Ministry of Justice and lock them up for a few days before questioning them. Someone else chimed in. Someone looked upstairs. There were also people coming out of the private room. There were indeed a few women who were dressed coquettishly. At first glance, it was obvious that they were not decent. Someone, take them to the Ministry of Justice and file a case first. With such a supportive voice, Lu Xinqing had provoked the public's anger. The young man immediately ordered the servant. Fighting in the street could indeed be treated as a criminal offense. Chapter 974. What? She went to the court. Marchioness Yangxiu heard the news and almost fainted. She held the corner of the table and said, Quick, go and ask young madam to come here. The young madam of Duke Yangxiu came very quickly. She also got the news that her daughter had sued Lu Xinqing in court, saying that Lu Xinqing had chased and beaten her daughter on the street and wanted to kill her for a prostitute. Young Madam Yangxiu was born in a military family and had a bad temper. How could she listen to this? She gathered people and was about to go to the Ministry of Penalty. Unexpectedly, Marchioness Yangxiu came at this time. She simply took a large group of people to Marchioness Yangxiu. As soon as she entered the door, she saw a teacup flying over. She slightly dodged to the side, and the teacup hit the door frame heavily and broke into pieces. You are unfilial. I told you to marry her a long time ago, but you refused to marry her. Look at what happened now. Marchioness Yangxiu stretched out her hand and scolded. Mother, you are right. I will go and see her now. She is so shameless and fooled around with prostitutes. Does she really think that there is no one in our house? If you can bear such anger, how can you and young Madame Yangxiu stand in front of people in the future? It is not an honor to sell your daughter. Young Madame Yangxiu deliberately misinterpreted Marchioness Yangxiu's words. After that, she bowed to Marchioness Yangxiu and said respectfully, Mother, I am going to bring Wan back now. You should go now. Although Marchioness Yangxiu knew that young Madame Yangxiu was deliberately pretending to be confused, she had to let her go. How could a miss from an aristocratic family really stay in the Ministry of Justice? Moreover, her daughter-in-law had just mentioned Master Ho and her son. Even for the sake of Master Ho and her son, she could not tolerate Luo Xiaowan staying in the Ministry of Justice. She had to get her back as soon as possible. This marriage, Madame Yangxiu no longer had any idea. This matter was so big. If she did not agree to cancel the marriage, people might say that she was a snob who sold her granddaughter for wealth in order to flatter the Empress. Even if she did want to please the Empress with this matter, she could not really respond at this time. The career of Master Ho and her son could not be delayed. Even though Marchioness Yangxiu was upset about her daughter-in-law, she had to let her bring her back first. Yes, mother, your daughter-in-law will go right away. Hearing this, the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu immediately nodded, turned around, and led a large group of people to the Ministry of Penalty. She wanted to see how this good-for-nothing mud dared to do such a thing. Since the matter had been blown up, it didn't matter if it got bigger. Anyway, her daughter's reputation had been dragged down by this piece of mud. She wouldn't take it lying down. When they arrived at the Ministry of Justice, they heard that the wife of Duke Yangxiu's heir had come. The officials of the Ministry of Justice invited her in and saw Luo Xiaowan shivering in the room. Seeing that her daughter not only had messy hair, but also had a scratch on her face, and her fair and tender face looked a little red and swollen, the wife of Duke Yangxiu was furious. She turned around and asked the official behind her, "Where is that Lu Xincheng?" "In the room next door." The official said. "I'll go take a look." The young madam of Marquis Yangxiu turned around and went to the room on the side. The officials of the Ministry of Penalty hurriedly followed her. But they were still a few steps late. In the room, Lu Xincheng was picked up by the husband of the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu. He pushed him hard and hit the corner of the table on one side, bending down in pain. You, a playboy also wants to marry my daughter. Who gives you such a big face? Why don't you look at yourself?" The young madam of Marquis Yangxiu said with hatred. Thinking of her daughter's miserable appearance just now, she gnashed her teeth. This was originally not a well-matched marriage. Because of what the Empress said, old Madam of Marquis Xing's mansion wholeheartedly flattered the Empress. She said that she would be a matchmaker, just to please the Empress. As for her mother-in-law, because of this mentality, she had always refused to let her daughter break off the engagement. Now this marriage was broken off, but her daughter's reputation was almost ruined. Thinking of this, the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu even wanted to eat Lu Xincheng. Although Marquis Yangxiu hated Lu Xincheng very much, it was not convenient for her to slap Lu Xincheng's face at this time, so she could only push him hard. "Young madam, please stand aside and talk." The official of the Ministry of Penalty arrived. He secretly wiped his cold sweat and asked her to go out. If they really fought here again, he would also be responsible. The young madam of Marquis Yangxiu glared at Lu Xincheng again and turned back to the previous room. Holding her daughter in her arms, she felt very distressed and secretly made up her mind that this matter could not be settled easily in any case. She could not let her daughter have any relationship with this playboy again. Although it would be bad for her daughter's reputation at this time, it was better than tearing it up in the future. If she got married and was forced to return home, it would be really bad. Thinking of this, she felt a little comforted and immediately asked someone to negotiate with the Ministry of Penalty. Luo Xiaowan was the plaintiff, but she was a miss from an aristocratic family. Of course, it was not convenient for her to deal with this matter by herself, so she left a servant girl to act as the plaintiff. Luo Xiaowan went back with the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu. The young madam of Marquis Yangxiu also left her competent supervisor to help the servant girl fight this lawsuit. In fact, this lawsuit was not a big deal. It was just a quarrel between the two families. At most, it was a little embarrassing. She should not have been sent to the Ministry of Penalty. In addition, the relationship between the two parties was in-laws, and someone mediated between them. In the evening, this matter was settled. The criminal case was settled, but because this matter was related to the Ministry of Penalty, it was imperative to break off the marriage. Marquis Yangxiu's mansion could not let others point at their backs and scold them for selling their daughter for glory. On the same day, Marquis Yangxiu's mansion invited old madam of Marquis Xing's mansion. She was the matchmaker, so it was natural for her to break off the marriage. Does the emperor know about it? Old madam said lightly with a frown. It was obvious that she was not very happy. Her Majesty the Empress should know about this. In this situation, it's not a marriage, but an enemy. Let's forget about this marriage. Marquis Yangxiu's madam said with a wry smile. Originally, she wanted to curry favor with the Empress, but she did not expect that such a big deal would happen. Let's break off the marriage. Marquis, you'd better go to the Imperial Palace in person. Old madam did not want to bear this responsibility, so she pushed this matter to Marquis Yangxiu's mansion. Originally, she had just pushed the boat with the current, thinking that by saying a few words, she would be able to gain the Empress' favor. She hadn't thought that not only would she gain favor, she would be filled with anger. Speaking of it, she, the so-called matchmaker, was extremely embarrassing. Let's go to see the Empress later. Marquis Yangxiu's madam said. In the current situation, she had to break off the marriage. Master Ho also told her that if the Empress really interfered, it would be difficult to deal with it. It was better to deal with it by herself first and then tell the Empress. Even if the Empress was a little unhappy, she could only do so. It would be shameful for everyone to talk about this matter. It was better not to expose it if possible. Since you have decided so, I can't make the decision for your mansion. Then let's go. Old madam also had a lot of family affairs. She really did not want to worry about the affairs of Marquis Yangxiu's mansion, so she said lightly. She asked Nanny Yu to handle this matter. She found Lu Xincheng and asked him to take the marriage certificate back. Originally, she thought it was a very simple matter, but she did not expect that there would be an accident. After Lu Xincheng came out of the Ministry of Justice, he left immediately and said that he wanted to go home. When Nanny Yu went over, he had already left. If he went back, this marriage could not be broken off in a short time. Luo Xiaowan had to delay it again. A man could afford to delay it, but a woman could not. If it was delayed like this, no one knew when it would be delayed. Hearing this, young madam of Marquis Yangxiu was shocked and hurriedly sent someone to chase after him. She must get him back. However, the people sent out chased all the way but failed to catch up with him. Young madam of Marquis Yangxiu was so anxious that she paced around in the room. If Lu's mansion had this idea, she was afraid that this marriage could only be delayed until there was no news about it. Her daughter's life would really be ruined. Lu Xincheng was really vicious. He actually came up with such a way to delay this marriage. When Luo Xiaowan heard such a news, she cried so hard that her maids could not persuade her no matter how hard they tried. In the evening, the people sent by young madam of Marquis Yangxiu had not found Lu Xincheng. Miss, Princess Chen has sent someone over. This is a letter for you. A maid rushed in with a letter. Luo Xiaowan wiped away her tears and took it. After opening it, she stood up in surprise, picked up the corner of her dress, and ran to young madam of Marquis Yangxiu in a hurry. After reading Xiao Wanru's letter, young madam of Marquis Yangxiu was overjoyed and hurriedly sent someone out. Not long after, they found Lu Xincheng in a courtyard in the north of the capital city. In fact, he did not leave at all, so the servants of Marquis Yangxiu's mansion did not catch up with him. After being found, Lu Xincheng was still unwilling to break off the engagement. However, after Marquis Xing's mansion came forward and young Madam of Marquis Yangxiu appeared in person, he reluctantly took out the letter and the engagement was finally broken off as scheduled. Xiao Wanru returned to the mansion in the evening. She had gone to the Palace of Benevolent Peace to talk with the Empress Dowager for a while and also told the Empress Dowager what she had seen before. When Lu Xincheng chased Luo Xiaowan, Xiao Wanru's carriage also happened to be on the street and saw that scene. After telling this to the Empress Dowager felt very sorry for Luo Xiaowan. Such a miss from an aristocratic family was engaged to such a libertine. This marriage was too much. After that, Xiao Wanru chatted with the Empress Dowager for a while before returning to Prince Chen's mansion from the side door. She had arranged things before entering the palace. As soon as they arrived at Prince Chen's mansion, Qing came to report, "Your Highness, Lu Xincheng has been found. As you instructed, I sent someone to keep an eye on him first. After he settled down, I sent a message to Miss Luo." This was originally just an idle move. Unexpectedly, Lu Xincheng really made a move. Chapter 975. Has anyone informed him? Xiao Wanru sat down, picked up the teacup, took a sip, and asked. No. I've been sending someone to keep an eye on him. After he returned to the place where he used to live, he directly asked someone to pack up his things and left immediately. He didn't have time to pack up some things and left them behind. It can be seen that he was really in a hurry. Qing was also very confused. If Lu Xincheng was really so vigilant, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Just based on this decisiveness, it made people look up to him. Didn't anyone warn him? Xiao Wanru didn't take it seriously. She had seen Lu Xincheng at that time and knew at first glance that he was a pompous child who hadn't made any progress. In the private room next door, although the words he said showed that he looked down on Luo Xiaowan, in fact, he also belittled Yangxiu Marquis' mansion. In fact, he even refuted the face of the Empress. He was not a smart or cautious person. How could such a person leave quickly after the matter and attack Yangxiu Marquis' mansion? Compared with Lu Xincheng's action, his action gave people a completely different feeling. There should be someone helping Lu Xincheng behind the scenes. Your Highness, it's impossible. When he came back, Lu Xincheng asked someone to pack up as soon as he got out of the carriage without any hesitation. He should have made up his mind when he was in the carriage. When he was in the carriage, there was only Lu Xincheng and his servant in the carriage. The servant looked timid and smart, but he didn't seem to be someone who could come up with such an idea. Qing answered. This was also what she couldn't figure out. No matter from which aspect, Lu Xincheng shouldn't have reacted in such a way. Fortunately, the princess had arranged for her to keep an eye on Lu Xincheng before entering the imperial palace. Otherwise, Lu Xincheng would have definitely escaped this time. Everyone thought that Lu Xincheng had left the capital city and chased in the direction of Lu Xincheng's hometown. But in fact, they chased in the wrong direction. If they chased all the way, they couldn't catch up with Lu Xincheng even if they chased him all the way to the Lu mansion. Since he is not in his mansion or around him, he must be someone from the Ministry of Justice. Xiao Wanru said. With a thought, she suddenly thought of a person. Go and check whether Qi Tianyu of the Ministry of Justice was there that day. Is Princess suspecting him? Qing asked in surprise. This was an answer that no one had expected. Just check it out. He had a good relationship with Qiu Yu of the Ministry of Justice. Xiao Wanru said. Yes, miss, I'm here now. Qing nodded and went down. After a while, she came back with the news. Miss, the first young master of the Qi family happened to visit His Excellency Qiu in the Ministry of Justice today, and he did see Lu Xincheng. Seeing Lu Xincheng's pitiful appearance, the first young master of the Qi family asked His Excellency Qiu to find a doctor to treat Lu Xincheng in case of other accidents. Qing reported. It was easy to investigate this matter, and it was not a secret. Qi Tianyu said it casually and Qiu Yu did it casually. It was not important, so no one cared about it. It should be Qi Tianyu. Xiao Wanru weighed it in her heart and said with understanding. Why do you think it's this young Master Qi instead of Lord Qiu? Qing asked in confusion. In her opinion, Lu Xincheng had contacted a lot of people in the Ministry of Justice. After all, Qiu Yu worked in the Ministry of Justice, so it was much easier for him to say and do what he wanted than Qi Tianyu. In other aspects, Qiu Yu was more capable than Qi Tianyu. The aristocratic families in the capital were not united. No one knew whether there was a grudge between the Qiu's mansion and the Luo's mansion. Qi Tianyu was the real, he was a complete outsider. After arriving in the capital, he did not have any entanglement with other aristocratic families. He had been an official alone and had not even got engaged. Besides, he did not know Lu Xincheng before, so it could not be him. Of course, this was just the idea of an outsider. Xiao Wanru had never looked down on Qi Tianyu. In the last life, Qi Tianyu had a successful career as an official with the help of Qin Yuru, Duke Yong's mansion and Duke Xing's mansion. Even without the help of her father, he had a good life in the capital. He should be a servant of a prince. Otherwise, he could not have lived such a good life. But Xiao Wanru did not know who he was. In the last life, she had a wandering life and did not pay attention to other aspects, let alone find these things. Now thinking about it carefully, it was inevitable. In this life, because of Qin Yuru, Qi Tianyu did not live a good life. But even so, he still climbed up steadily. Such a person could not be underestimated. Of course, Qi Tianyu would not help for no reason. Not only Qi Tianyu, but also other people in the Ministry of Justice would not help for no reason. With the background in the last life, Xiao Wanru first suspected Qi Tianyu. Even though she could not find a reason for him to intervene, he was indeed in the Ministry of Justice at that time and had a conversation with Lu Xincheng. It was very likely that this matter had something to do with him. Now Qi Rongji was going to enter Prince Zhou's mansion, but it did not guarantee that the person behind Qi Tianyu must be Prince Zhou. The most likely person was Chu Luyue. She had to be careful. Qi Tianyu is more likely. Has it been dealt with now? Xiao Wanru shook her head and put away the doubts in her heart. She could only keep Qi Tianyu's matter in her heart for the time being. The marriage has been cancelled. It has finally been cancelled. Qing said with a smile. Xiao Wanru nodded with a smile. It was a good thing that the marriage was finally cancelled. Anyway, Luo Xiaowan, who did not get married, was much luckier than in the last life. Even though she had a good reputation, it was Lu Xincheng's fault. Governors of some families would not think badly of Luo Xiaowan. Even though these families did not occupy many families, Luo Xiaowan, who had the background of Duke Yangxiu's mansion, still had a promising future. Now that the imperial examination in spring was over, there must be some scholars with humble family backgrounds who passed the examination and could get a son-in-law. This was the most suitable time. It was better to cancel the marriage at this time than at any other time. Miss, there is a letter from the prince. Yu Jie suddenly ran in excitedly and said loudly. Where is the letter? Xiao Wanru couldn't help showing a smile on her face. But looking at her empty hands, she asked with her watery eyes flickering. The letter is in the hands of second young master. Yu Jie wiped the hot sweat on her face and said. Second young master? Xiao Wanru didn't know which second young master it was. It's second young master Qi. The prince asked second young master Qi to send the letter. Now second young master Qi is outside. Yu Jie said with a smile. It turned out to be Qi Baiyu. Xiao Wanru stood up happily and said, invite him in. Xiao Wanru hadn't seen Qi Baiyu for a long time. When they met again, she found that Qi Baiyu was no longer the thin boy. He looked stronger and darker, and he was very energetic. Second young master Qi. Xiao Wanru said happily. She was very happy to see her old friend at this time. Princess Chen. Qi Baiyu cupped his hands to salute. Neither of them looked like children in the past, so the necessary etiquette was necessary. Sit down and talk. Xiao Wanru invited him to take a seat with a smile. After they sat down, the servant girls served tea. When did second young master follow his highness? Seeing Qi Tianyu take out the letter, Xiao Wanru asked with her eyes flickering slightly. It's been almost 3 years. Your highness and I got to know each other through Discord. Qi Baiyu smiled and handed the letter to Yujie. 3 years. So long. Xiao Wanru blinked her watery eyes and said. Almost, maybe not. At that time, you had gone to the Yuhui nunnery. I went to see you once, but not only did I not see you, but I was also caught by Prince Chen. I was not convinced, so we had a fight. I didn't expect His Highness to be so powerful. Qi Baiyu said casually. At that time, he really didn't expect that Prince Chen, who looked sick and weak and couldn't even walk steadily, could be so good at martial arts and even beat him down. How could he be convinced by this? After that, he fought with Chu Luchen from time to time. As time went by, they got into a fight. I went with Prince Chen this time. I had something to do on the way, so Prince Chen asked me to bring a letter to Princess Chen. Princess Chen, you'd better read it first and write a reply by the way. I will catch up with him tomorrow morning. Qi Baiyu said with a smile. Are you still going back to the mansion? Xiao Wanru asked. Not only back to the mansion, but also some other things. I happen to do them together. I will go back after I finish them. Qi Baiyu said with a smile. Then come to get it tomorrow morning. Xiao Wanru nodded. Qi Baiyu stood up quickly and said, I have something to do now, so I have to go. I will come to get the letter tomorrow morning. Princess Chen, you'd better get it ready soon. 4:45 in the morning. Okay. Knowing that Qi Baiyu had something to do and seeing that he was in a hurry, Xiao Wanru didn't keep him and asked Yujie to send Qi Baiyu to the door for her. After dinner, she couldn't wait to take the letter and read it under the lamp. Chu Luchen wrote a lot of letters, saying where he was now and what different scenery he had seen. This kind of scenery was novel for Chu Luchen, and it was also very strange for Xiao Wanru. She read it with great interest for a while. Chu Luchen also put a landscape painting in the letter. Although the painting was simple, it was vivid. At the end of the letter, he mentioned that there were some wonderful things in the rumors in the Sioux state, which were about some rumors about his previous life and this life. He didn't know whether they were true or not. If there was an afterlife, he hoped that he could live with Xiao Wanru forever. These words made Xiao Wanru blush. She seemed to see Chu Liuchen's lazy look and couldn't help showing a smile. After thinking for a while, she also picked up the writing brush and wrote a reply. After that, she drew a simple painting of a string of wind chimes hanging on the window, which Chu Luchen had hung for her before he left. The wind blew and the chimes were crisp and pleasant. After finishing the painting, she thought for a while and drew a woman's side profile facing the window in the distance. Your Highness, it's time to rest. Yujie had come in to see Xiao Wanru several times. Every time, she saw Xiao Wanru write and draw seriously at the desk. At this time, seeing that she finally stopped, she reminded her. Prepare the letter early tomorrow morning and let second young Master Qi take it away. Xiao Wanru ordered. Chapter 976. Early the next morning, Qi Baiyu took the letter from Yujie, who was guarding at the door, and then left. When Xiao Wanru got up, Yujie had already slept for a while and got up again. After Chu Lu and Qing Yu helped Xiao Wanru dress up, Yujie came last. After Xiao Wanru had breakfast, she saw a servant girl outside reporting that Luo Xiaowan and Zhang Qilan asked to see her. Xiao Wanru invited them in. Thank you, Princess Chen. When Luo Xiaowan saw Xiao Wanru, she choked with sobs and was about to kneel down to salute. Xiao Wanru hurriedly stepped forward and helped Luo Xiaowan up. Sister Xiaowan, you're too polite. Princess Chen, if it weren't for you, I would have really ruined everything this time. If I delay it until the Empress takes action, then... Luo Xiaowan's eyes turned red. She was timid and a little timid, but she was not stupid. She knew that if she couldn't find Lu Xincheng yesterday, she would really be dragged to death or be married by the empress. Fortunately, Prince Chen's mansion sent the news about Lu Xincheng. Fortunately, she asked Lu Xincheng to come to her. There was still room for her to recover. Sister Xiaowan, Princess Chen, don't call me Sister Xiaowan anymore. I hope you can call me Xiaowan directly. Luo Xiaowan shook her head and said. Princess Chen, you'd better call Xiaowan by her name. Zhang Qilan also persuaded her. Luo Xiaowan and Xiao Wanru were not really relatives. Now it was not appropriate for her to call Luo Xiaowan Sister Xiaowan with her status, and it might even cause other accidents. Xiao Wanru also understood this, so she didn't force it. She nodded at once and the three of them sat down. After sitting down and the servant girl served tea, Xiao Wanru asked softly, how is Xiaowan's marriage? Did your grandmother make things difficult for you? My grandmother also agreed to break off the engagement. Old Madam of Marquis Xing's mansion also sent someone over. This engagement is considered to be broken off now. Luo Xiaowan pinched her handkerchief and said. That's good. Xiao Wanru nodded. What are you going to do next? This marriage had dragged Luo Xiaowan into an even worse situation in her previous life. My mother said, we can find a son-in-law. Luo Xiaowan blushed and lowered her head. She didn't dare to say these words in the past, but now she believed in both Xiao Wanru and Zhang Qilan, so she naturally said, I don't care about the family conditions, as long as he is promising. Yangtze Marquis' mansion was not a declining noble family. It could be said that they offered such a condition for this daughter to a large extent. It could be seen that the young madam of Duke Yangtze was really good to her daughter. The spring imperial examination is about to end. At that time, we can look at the families of those who have not married yet, and then choose a suitable one. Zhang Qilan also felt that this was a good thing. The aristocratic families in the capital originally had the saying of catching a son-in-law. Even with Luo Xiaowan's situation, even if she could not find the best, she could still find an ordinary one. After all, Luo Xiaowan was the legitimate daughter of Yangtze Marquis Mansion and was deeply favored by the wife of Prince Yangtze. That's the best. Xiao Wanru nodded. Has your mother already started to choose? Luo Xiaowan's face became redder and redder. She gently nodded and said, Mother. Mother has already started to choose. Although it was still unknown who would win the imperial examination, there were still people who were more knowledgeable in the past. She had heard of the more knowledgeable people in the past. Marchioness Yangtze truly loved her daughter, so she had screened them early in order to find the most suitable person for Luo Xiaowan. Don't worry. I've asked my brother to inquire about who is most likely to win the imperial examination and let the wife of Prince Yangtze pick them first. This is better than publishing the results. Zhang Qilan also said with a smile. After that, she patted the table and suggested, how about we go and have a look now? Didn't they say that the exam was over today? Counting the days, today was indeed the last day of the exam. All the candidates should be released in a while. There were several roads that were deliberately blocked before, just for the convenience of the candidates. At present, those roads were still blocked. This is not very good. Luo Xiaowan blushed and shook her head. She had always been timid. Yesterday, she really went all out. She thought that if she really wanted to get married, she would give up her life. When she recalled it last night, she still felt a lingering fear. She only felt that her hands and feet were sore. How could she be so bold to rush out at that time? It doesn't matter. Let's take a look first. Maybe we can see a suitable one. Zhang Qilan said disapprovingly and looked at Xiao Wanru expectantly. What do you think, Princess Chen? Let's go and help Xiao Wanru. Others haven't done it yet, so it's faster for us to do it. Seeing Zhang Qilan's interest, Xiao Wanru smiled. She slowly picked up the teacup and took a sip. Then she slowly put it down and shook her head. Don't go. Why? Anyway, we have nothing to do at this time. Zhang Qilan said in confusion. She felt that Xiao Wanru's temper should not be so timid. Why didn't she dare to go with them? When the Empress Dowager was in the palace yesterday, she told me to go out less. Prince Chen is not in the mansion now. It's not good for me to go out all the time. Xiao Wanru explained with a smile. Hearing her words, Zhang Qilan could no longer instigate Xiao Wanru to go out. She could only sigh helplessly, if Princess Chen doesn't go out, I can't go either. What a pity. Why can't you go if I can't go? Xiao Wanru became curious. Her long eyelashes fluttered twice and she asked with a smile. My mother said that I should learn from you when I have nothing to do. She said that you have the demeanor of Princess Chen. She said that I don't know anything and am bold. I don't know when I will make trouble. Zhang Qilan's face was bitter, and her eyebrows also wrinkled bitterly. Luo Xiaowan, who was beside her, also relaxed and laughed. Xiao Wanru laughed and said, you will be a princess in the future. It's true that I will learn from you when I see you. Since when do you need to learn from me? The meaning of this joke was obvious. No matter how straightforward Zhang Qilan was, she couldn't help blushing at this time. She snorted at Xiao Wanru and said, let's talk about the future later. Anyway, in my mother's eyes, I can't compare with you. My mother praises everything you do. What did I do? Xiao Wanru's heart moved slightly, and she asked with a smile on her face. What else? My mother also said that you did the right thing about you and Infanta Yuan and before. You should have done so at that time, lest someone make a fuss about it. Zhang Qilan said. The dispute between Xiao Wanru and Infanta Yuan and the fact that Chu Luqian broke second young master Chu's hand at the palace gate had already spread throughout the capital city. Most people felt that Xiao Wanru should do this. This was the best way to vent their anger. Why could second young master Chu do whatever he wanted while Princess Chen had to endure it? No matter what, second young master Chu's identity and status were not comparable to second young master Chu's. Could it be that just because she was a woman and second young master Chu was a man, she should be at a disadvantage? At that time, I was just too angry, so the servant girl did it. His Highness was also very angry at that time. Xiao Wanru said softly. Her words were very implicit. This kind of person should be taught a lesson. He doesn't know what kind of person he is. How dare he do such a thing? Chu Yuanan has been wearing his seemingly gentle and fair face all day long, but he did such a thing. It's really shameful. Zhang Qilan curled her lips and said. This matter seemed to have nothing to do with Infanta Yuan, but all the women who had fought in the inner court could see clearly that Infanta Yuan was obviously unclean, but she pretended to be so innocent, which really made others look down on her. In the past, Infanta Yuan's reputation had always been very good, but now it seemed that it was just so. Princess Chen, the shop you went to that day is actually really good. I've been there before and ordered a few sets of clothes. Every set is very good. After that, I ordered a few more sets, but they haven't been delivered yet. Zhang Qilan said with pity. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Princess Chen, can you ask someone to invite the shopkeeper here? I'll order a few more sets, and Xiao Wan will also order a few more sets. Luo Xiaowan's current situation was indeed inconvenient for her to go out. Hearing Zhang Qilan's words, she was also quite tempted. She looked up at Xiao Wanru and looked at her eagerly. Although she didn't say anything, the meaning of her desire was already very obvious. Call him over. Xiao Wanru hesitated for a moment. Yes, call him over. We'll pick out some clothes and bring some cloth and buttons over by the way. My mother won't let me go out recently. She said that I should behave myself. Seeing that there was a chance, Zhang Qilan hurriedly persuaded with a bitter face. Luo Xiaowan timidly called out, Princess Chen, all right. Xiao Wanru said helplessly, Yujie, go and ask the shopkeeper of Butterfly Clothing Shop to come over. Ask her to bring some clothes, embroidery edges, and buttons over. Yes, Your Highness, I'll go right away. Yujie understood and answered crisply. She turned around and left with a smile. Since what happened that day, in order to avoid suspicion, Xiao Wanru and Nanny Dong had not contacted each other. Now that there was such an opportunity, she happened to go there. Nanny Dong came quickly. It didn't take long for her to arrive in a carriage. She was accompanied by 3 embroidery maids. They brought some good materials, buttons, and embroidery edges, which were piled up on the table. Zhang Qilan and Luo Xiaowan were so tempted that they gathered together and carefully picked them out. Xiao Wanru only picked one dress and sat aside to rest. Nanny Dong also stood aside with a smile, and a few embroidery maids were waiting at the table. "How's Nanny Dong's business?" Xiao Wanru asked with a smile, as if she was chatting. "Business is good, but..." Nanny Dong sighed when she said this, and her eyebrows were stained with sadness. Chapter 977. A complete copy. Update the latest chapter on the Crown Princess's medical skills as soon as possible. This. Speaking of this matter, Madame Dong looked more and more hesitant and lowered her head. Obviously, there was something going on. What's wrong? Is there really something difficult? Xiao Wanru asked gently with a smile. Madame Dong, just say it. If you have any difficulties, just say it. Chu Yedao said with a smile. In fact, there is really something difficult. Chu's mansion. Madame Dong lowered her head. Great Elder Princess's mansion sent someone to ask me to go there that day. Why did I call you over? Chu Lu asked in confusion. He said that I didn't make the stairs well, so second young Master Chu accidentally fell down the stairs. Fortunately, it was second young Master Chu. If it was someone else, he might have fallen to death on the spot. Madame Dong said angrily. This is too much. What kind of person is this? He is clearly deliberately venting his anger on you. Zhang Qilan heard it, turned her eyes, and said. What happened next? Xiao Wanru said lightly with a calm look in her eyes. This was what she had expected, but it was not convenient for her to go out and inquire about it recently. Even if she sent a maid, it would be difficult for her to do so. Later, I was asked to pay a lot of money, but the amount was too big. I couldn't get it. Madame Dong frowned more and more, and her face was full of distress. Princess Yuan has gone too far. What happened that day was obviously related to her. She did this as if it was really an accident. She vented her anger on the Shang family. Zhang Qilan walked over and said disdainfully. She was going to marry Prince Yu soon, and Infanta Yuan, who was going to become Princess Shou, had a different aura. At this time, hearing Nanny Dong's words, she immediately felt that it was Infanta Yuan's idea. Xiao Wanru glanced at Zhang Qilan calmly. She didn't expect her reaction to be so sharp. Sure enough, the person who wanted to be Princess Yu would not be simple in the future. Xiao Wanru didn't know who Princess Yu was in the last life. Maybe it was Zhang Qilan or not. In the last life, she didn't have much contact with Chu Luyue, let alone Princess Yu. Princess Yuan asked you to pay a large sum of money. What if you don't have it? Luo Xiaowan was the weakest. She couldn't hear the bitterness in Nanny Dong's words. She also put down the brocade in her hand and came over to ask. If there's really no other way, then, we can only cut off our assets. Madame Dong lowered her head and gave a bitter smile helplessly. People don't fight with officials, not to mention the mansion of Ruiping Great Elder Princess. Are you going to sell your shares to Ruiping Great Elder Princess? Xiao Wanru suddenly thought of something and asked with a trace of gloom in her watery eyes. If there's any other way, I wouldn't be willing to do it. I'd rather give this shop to someone else than suffer this baffling anger. Madame Dong's eyes turned red as she said, this shop has been opened in the capital for so many years, and it's also the result of painstaking efforts. If it really wanted to be like this, it wouldn't have been run so carefully in the beginning. This matter, if it really can't be settled, you can come to me. This matter was caused by me. I can't let you bear this responsibility for nothing. Xiao Wanru continued the topic calmly. The meaning of her words made Madame Dong extremely surprised. She suddenly raised her head, looked at Xiao Wanru in surprise, and said in a trembling voice, "Princess, do you mean that you want to help? You can hold on by yourself first. If you can't hold on, this shop doesn't need to be divided into shares. I will buy it and then deal with it with Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. You will still be the shopkeeper of the shop. Everything will remain the same, and I won't interfere in the internal affairs of your shop." Xiao Wanru said softly. Xiao Wanru meant that she would pay to take over the shop and take over the difficult things in the shop. As for the business of the shop, Nanny Dong would still be in charge, and Xiao Wanru would not handle it. Everything would remain the same as before, but Nanny Dong would have a powerful boss. This was really a surprise. Nanny Dong was so excited that she couldn't even speak. "Nanny Dong, hurry up and thank Princess Chen," Zhang Qilan reminded her with a smile. Nanny Dong hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed to Xiao Wanru 3 times. She said in a choked voice, Thank you, Princess Chen." "Why do you call her Princess Chen? You should be the boss." Luo Xiaowan also had a good impression of Nanny Dong, so she also helped her. Of course, she meant to facilitate this matter. She said that Nanny Dong could handle the cooperation by herself. Judging from the attitude of Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion, this matter would definitely not be good. How could Nanny Dong, a small merchant, compete with Great Elder Princess's mansion? It would be best for her to find a boss who could fight against Great Elder Princess's mansion. There was no one more suitable than Princess Chen. Even if there were others who were not afraid of the power of Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion, it was not necessary to fight against Great Elder Princess's mansion for a merchant. Princess Chen was different. The reason why Nanny Dong was angry was because of the grudge between Princess Chen and Infanta Yuanpen. From this point of view, Princess Chen was indeed the most suitable. What was more, the conditions offered by Princess Chen were so suitable. In any case, it was Nanny Dong who took advantage of it. Yes. I pay my respects to you, boss." Nanny Dong nodded repeatedly and followed Luo Xiaowan's words. We have to see if it's possible." Hearing their words, Xiao Wanru hesitated. After nodding with a smile, she asked Chu Lu to help Nanny Dong up. "Let's wait and see. There's no hurry." Since she said so, Nanny Dong could not force Xiao Wanru. She involuntarily turned her eyes to Zhang Qilan and Luo Xiaowan with a pleading look in her eyes. If they missed such a good thing, they would miss it. Everyone wanted to rely on Prince Chen's mansion. When Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion fought against Princess Chen, it was a complete defeat. Not only had Royal Princess Yuan fallen, even the second young Master Chu, who had gone with her, had his arm broken for no reason. No matter how one looked at it, it was an undeserved calamity, but everyone knew about it, and no one stood up for him. It was Prince Chen who broke his arm. What else could they do? It was impossible to bring Prince Chen back. Moreover, although second young Master Chu was innocent, Infanta Yuan was not. No one was blind. Nanny Dong, let's see what Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion wants first. If we really can't bear it, we can come to Princess Chen. Xiao Wan and I will be witnesses. Zhang Qilan said. Yes, Qilan and I will be witnesses. Princess Chen will definitely help you. Luo Xiaowan was very kind. She felt that she had just gotten out of the difficult situation, so everything was very kind. She also wanted to help Nanny Dong, so she sincerely said to Zhang Qilan. Thank you, Mrs. Nanny Dong was very moved. Xiao Wanru coughed in a low voice and said, Nanny Dong, if there is anything in the future, you can report to me directly. Originally, she wanted to hang it on a steward of Prince Chen's mansion, but because of the matter of Infanta Yuan, a steward seemed to be incompetent. Coincidentally, Zhang Qilan was also there. It was also a justifiable thing to take Butterfly Clothing Shop under her name in front of her. Of course, she couldn't let others see that she was bent on buying Butterfly Clothing Shop. Of course, she couldn't be too anxious. It was the best attitude to take it or not. After all, Zhang Qilan would be in Prince Yu's mansion in the future. She and Chu Luiyue were husband and wife. There were some things that she, an outsider, couldn't intervene. In fact, Xiao Wanru was not optimistic about Zhang Qilan marrying Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue was ambitious. For his great cause, he could sacrifice anything and give up anything. Even everything he did was to serve this great cause. Moreover, the relationship between Chu Luiyue and Xiao Yanru was ambiguous in the last life. In this life, it seemed that they had nothing to do with each other. However, with Xiao Yanru's character, how could she really have nothing to do with Chu Luiyue? Xiao Yanru was most optimistic about Chu Luiyue. She wanted to climb up with Chu Luiyue's help. Even if they were in the imperial harem now, so what? There were many dirty times in the imperial palace. How could an who had entered the imperial harem have nothing to gain? Especially this person was Xiao Yanru. She was 100% sure that Xiao Yanru would not feel at ease. She would never give up living in the imperial palace and guarding the current emperor. However, although she was not optimistic about the marriage between Zhang Qilan and Chu Luiyue, she would not rashly intervene. Such a marriage had been ordered by the emperor, so she couldn't change it. Unless Zhang Qilan died, this marriage must be valid. There was really nothing she could do about it. Thank you, Princess Chen. Thank you, Princess Chen. Madame Dong was so moved that she said repeatedly with a relaxed smile on her face. With Xiao Wanru's words, it was equivalent to finding a guarantee for butterfly clothing shop. It was normal for her to be in such a situation. Xiao Wanru waved her hand, and Madame Dong obediently retreated to the side, consciously treating herself as a subordinate. This clever look made Zhang Qilan look at Madame Dong again. A shopkeeper of a market shop had such a reaction. She was really smart. No wonder she managed butterfly clothing shop so well. It was almost comparable to the ready-made clothing shops that had been operating for several generations. Miss Zhang, have you met Prince Yu? Xiao Wanru asked with a smile in her watery eyes, which was very kind. She couldn't help but want to ask, and looked at Zhang Qilan calmly. This question was very abrupt, as if it was suddenly asked, but it was not abrupt for Zhang Qilan. Originally, this question should be asked to Zhang Qilan. Zhang Qilan, who was straightforward, immediately blushed when she heard that Chu Luiyue was asked. She bowed her head with a little shyness and said, I have met Prince Yu. He is very good. The words, very good, expressed all the thoughts of the woman. If she hadn't had feelings for Chu Luiyue, Zhang Qilan would not have reacted like this. Xiao Wanru sighed in her heart. Zhang Qilan was indeed interested in Chu Luiyue. No wonder Zhang Qilan was like this. Chu Luiyue had always been cold in front of others. He was handsome and tall, but he was meticulous. Compared with Prince Zhou, he was more popular with women. Previously, when she heard that the consort selection was held, many people went for this Princess Yu. She felt very helpless in her heart, but there was nothing she could do. It was hard to find a suitable friend, but she was afraid that this friend would not last long. An old maid in charge came in and whispered something to Qing Yu, who was standing at the door of the room. Qing Yu's face changed dramatically. Chapter 978. Your Highness, people from Butterfly Clothing Shop are here to look for Nanny Dong. Qing Yu took 2 steps forward and reported to Xiao Wanru in a low voice. Xiao Wanru thought for a while and said, Go and ask him what's the matter. Yes, I will go now. Qing Yu nodded and left. Although Madame Dong didn't say anything, her expression was already very unstable. She looked out of the window from time to time. It could be seen that something big had happened in Prince Chen's mansion at this time. Although she didn't say anything, she couldn't hide the anxiety in her eyes. Luo Xiaowan had just gotten rid of the stains, so she couldn't bear to see others so distressed. She couldn't help but say, Madame Dong, don't worry. Princess Chen is here. Even if something happens, it won't be a problem. I know. Thank you, Miss Luo. Madame Dong said with a forced smile. She had a lot on her mind. Xiao Wanru didn't say anything. She reached out to pick up the teacup on the table, took a sip, and then put it down slowly with a deep and indifferent look in her eyes. Miss Zhang, Miss Luo, why don't you pick some more? Seeing that she looked calm and unhurried, Luo Xiaowan also felt relieved. She pulled Zhang Qilan and the other two and went to the table to choose. Qing Yu came back soon. She walked into the room, bowed to Xiao Wanru, and said, I told you that someone is making trouble. The cloth in the shop is not good, and it will wrinkle as soon as it goes into the water. The toggle and loop buckle will loosen after being worn for a few days, revealing the lining inside. There are stains on the embroidery. I don't know where the stains came from. They are very dirty. Princess Yuan has gone too far. Zhang Qilan put down the material in her hand and said angrily. Everyone's reaction was the same. They all thought that it was Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion who intervened at this time. Otherwise, how could such a thing happen? The quality of butterfly clothing shop had always been very good. How could such a thing happen? It must be Infanta Yuan who asked someone to do it. Based on the fact that Princess Yuan had laid her hands on Prince Chen, it was even more common for her to deal with a lowly merchant. In fact, Princess Yuan was really the scapegoat this time. Xiao Wanru's eyes met Nanny Dong's eyes calmly. Both of them knew that it was not Yuan and County who took the initiative to do this, but Prince Yu. It was best to use this kind of method instead of using people from the government. However, he did not expect to meet Princess Yuan so coincidentally. What a coincidence, it may not be Infanta Yuan Xiao Wanru said implicitly. How could it not be her? Is it because she heard that Nanny Dong has entered Prince Chen's mansion and deliberately made such a thing? It's too much. In the past, when I saw her, I thought she was a good person and fair. Among the noble ladies in the capital, she could be considered a good one. I didn't expect her to be such a person. Zhang Qilan was annoyed. She and Commandery Princess Yuan hung out in the same social circles. They were all famous noble ladies in the capital city. In the past, they were not bad people. However, at this moment, she deeply felt that she had been deceived by Commandery Princess Yuan How could such a person be good? She was obviously a villain who stepped on others when they were weak. Moreover, she was a villain with ulterior motives. Let's go and take a look. After saying that, she turned around and walked out. Luo Xiaowan looked at Xiao Wanru and then at Zhang Qilan, feeling a little at a loss. Let's go and have a look together. Xiao Wanru said with a smile. Then she stood up and walked out. Seeing that, Luo Xiaowan hurriedly followed her. She was grateful to Princess Chen from the bottom of her heart. Without Xiao Wanru's help, she was still stuck in the mud and couldn't get out of it until now. Her mother had also analyzed it for her. This surnamed Lu was planning to drag her to death. Not only could she not drag it out, she couldn't win against him. She was also afraid that the Empress would bestow a marriage. At that time, she wouldn't be able to drag it out even if she wanted to. She would have no choice but to marry that surnamed Lu. At that time, she really wouldn't be able to call for help. At present, although her reputation was damaged, at least she was still in good condition. For this reason, Luo Xiaowan was full of gratitude to Xiao Wanru. The three of them got into the carriage together and went to Butterfly Clothing Shop with Nanny Dong and a group of servant girls. Before they arrived at the door, they saw a large group of people around the door, and the noise was very obvious. Nanny Dong squeezed through the crowd first. Xiao Wanru asked the carriage to stop on the side of the road. They got out of the carriage together in curtain hats and also came to the door of Butterfly Clothing Shop. At the door of Butterfly Clothing Shop, a middle-aged woman pulled a shop assistant and scolded loudly. There were some brocades, some stained embroidery edges and toggle and loop buttons on the ground. There were a lot of them, and there were several large bags. A piece of cloth was shaken off on the ground. It was wrinkled and looked not good at first glance. Your shop is too black-hearted. I clearly said that I would take these things back to sell and asked you to give me a wholesale price. I didn't expect that although the price was not much lower, you gave me inferior goods. I'm running a small business, and the head of the family is still lying in bed. Who would sell these things to me? Aren't you asking for the lives of my entire family? The middle-aged woman said loudly. She pulled the shop assistant in the shop hard and shouted, "Ask your black-hearted boss to come out." What did she say to me that day? She said that these things were good. Even if she gave me a discount, they would not be worse than those outside. But look, what are these? The more the middle-aged woman spoke, the angrier she became. She stretched out her hand and pushed the shop assistant hard. The shop assistant was pushed back 2 steps and hit the door frame heavily. He bent down in pain. The middle-aged woman stepped forward again, but another shop assistant beside her stood up and stopped her. Sister-in-law, what's the matter? Take your time. Speak slowly. How can I speak slowly? My husband is still waiting to buy medicine to save his life after selling these things. Your black-hearted shop gave me materials based on people's preferences. Did you see that I'm poor and purposely gave me moldy materials? If my husband can't take medicine because of this, I will kill myself in front of your black-hearted shop. The middle-aged woman became angrier and angrier as she spoke. The onlookers began to discuss and looked at Butterfly Clothing Shop unkindly. If what the middle-aged woman said was true, the brand of Butterfly Clothing Shop would be ruined. No matter whether Butterfly Clothing Shop dealt with the aftermath or not, it would be difficult to remedy such a big mistake. It was the most taboo thing in business for a shop to bully the owner and give some bad materials to the customers. Reputation. Only when a shop had a good reputation could it continue to operate. Business was different from other things. Reputation was more important. Sister-in-law, I don't seem to have seen you before. Did you get these materials from me? Madame Dong came in from behind the crowd, looked the middle-aged woman up and down, and said. The middle-aged woman's eyes flashed and she immediately said angrily, Madame Dong, it's obvious that you gave them to me. How dare you say you don't know them? Now you don't want to admit it. These things are all yours, right? Look at the toggle and loop buttons, look at the embroidery. If they are not yours, whose are they? The middle-aged woman squatted down and scattered the embroidery and toggle and loop buttons on the ground. Someone in the crowd caught them and looked at the embroidery and toggle and loop buttons. They are from Butterfly Clothing Shop. They are indeed from Butterfly Clothing Shop. These toggle and loop buttons are a new style. They can't be found in other places, and the embroidery is also new. They only appeared recently. Exactly. I've been there before, and the price is frighteningly expensive. The crowd was talking and standing on the side of the middle-aged woman. They looked at Madame Dong with increasingly unfriendly eyes. Looking at the situation, Madame Dong knew that the visitor was not friendly today. These toggle and loop buttons and embroidery were all new styles of Butterfly Clothing Shop. In order to increase its competitiveness, Butterfly Clothing Shop would launch some new boutiques for customers to choose from every once in a while. This was also the reason why Butterfly Clothing Shop's brand had been getting better and better in the past 3 years. There would always be some new behaviors. But right now, these actions were being used by someone to deal with him. She didn't know this middle-aged woman, but it was obvious that others knew her. In fact, it was not difficult. As long as she stayed outside the shop of Butterfly Clothing Shop for a while, she could always see her. Sister-in-law, you said that these toggle and loop buttons are ours. Do you have any evidence? She made up her mind, squatted down, picked up a toggle and loop button from the ground, and asked. Do you need me to say whether these toggle and loop buttons are yours or not? Everyone around knows it. You can't deny it even if you want to. The middle-aged woman shouted loudly. She reached out to pick up the things on the ground and threw them at Madame Dong. Madame Dong was caught off guard and fell to the ground after being hit. You have to compensate me. As she said, she picked up the things on the ground and threw them at Madame Dong mindlessly. Madame Dong couldn't stand it and hurriedly covered her head. Sister-in-law, can you talk nicely? It's wrong for you to hit people like this. When the yamen runners come later, they may think that there is a fight here and take everyone to the yamen. Xiao Wanru stepped forward with Yujie. When she saw the scene in front of her, she winked at Yujie. Yujie stepped forward to grab the middle-aged woman's hand and said. The middle-aged woman was not convinced and struggled hard. Yujie's hand held her hand tightly, but she couldn't get rid of it for a while. She glared at her and said angrily, "Who are you? How dare you meddle in this kind of business?" Yujie was dressed like a servant girl, so the middle-aged woman didn't care. How dare a little servant girl meddle in this business? She didn't know whether she was shameless or not. I didn't want to meddle in your business at first, but I can't stand it anymore when I see you deliberately making trouble. Xiao Wanru said and walked out slowly from the crowd. She walked to the messy embroidery, picked up a piece of embroidery edge casually, looked at the yellow stain on it, and said, "Didn't you see such stains when the innkeeper sold the goods? You didn't say it at that time, so why did you say it now? How can you prove that you didn't make these stains on it?" The yellow stain on the edge of the embroidery was very obvious. It was indeed dirty, but it could be the innkeeper's or the middle-aged woman's. Hearing what she said, the onlookers nodded repeatedly. It did make sense. Since they didn't see it when the goods were sold, it seemed a little wrong to talk about it after taking it home. In fact, it was possible for both families. Chapter 979. Nonsense. How could I do such a thing? Why would I frame this family? I've been doing business for a long time, and I know some of them. I used to go to other places to buy goods, but this is the first time I've been to her house. I heard that the goods in her house are good, but I didn't expect that she would bully her customers. The middle-aged woman was furious, but she couldn't get rid of Yujie's hand, so she could only stare at her and shout. Then tell me, why didn't I see these stains when the goods were shipped? Xiao Wanru said calmly, as if she didn't see the middle-aged woman's flushed face struggling. They were rolled together when they were shipped. How could I see them? The middle-aged woman said loudly. It was possible that so many goods were wrapped together. Someone in the crowd nodded and said, "Yes, if there are a lot of goods, it's basically like this. Besides, it's wholesale. If the shop is kind, he will give us more materials, and we may do business together next time. That's the way to do business. It's not the first time, so it's normal to give more. Since there are so many goods, we are all businessmen, and harmony makes money. There's no need to investigate everything. Just take a look. For some shops with a good reputation, you just need to give them a big sum." Hearing that someone in the crowd was speaking for her, the middle-aged woman became more and more energetic. She stretched out her other empty hand, pointed at Madame Dong, and said with bulging eyes, "At that time, I thought she looked like an honest businesswoman, so I didn't look at her. I didn't expect that she would lie to me like this and give me some inferior materials that I can't use. What should I do? I have to support my family." The middle-aged woman wanted to slap her thigh and burst into tears at this moment, but one of her hands was pulled by Yujie. Yujie's hand was still exerting force. Before her emotions could brew, she had already gritted her teeth in pain. How could she have the mood to shed tears? She could only pull Yujie's hand back fiercely. Yujie was holding the middle-aged woman's hand hard, but it couldn't be seen on her face. She was still holding the middle-aged woman's hand calmly. On the contrary, the middle-aged woman was distracted, and it seemed that she was pulling Yujie's hand with too much force. It seemed that she was acting, which made some people suspicious. It couldn't really be fake, right? The embroidery doesn't look like it's from this shop. Xiao Wanru asked calmly. Definitely, it's their family. The middle-aged woman clenched her teeth. If you don't believe me, you can go and compete. This was originally the material of Butterfly Clothing Shop, so they were not afraid of competing. Do these toggle loop buttons also belong to Butterfly Clothing Shop? Xiao Wanru picked up the 2 toggle loop buttons on the ground, looked at the loose thread inside and asked. Of course it's from Butterfly Clothing Shop. If you don't believe it, you can check it. The middle-aged woman said loudly. These things did belong to Butterfly Clothing Shop, so it didn't matter if they checked again. Miss Zhang, look at this. Xiao Wanru ignored the middle-aged woman and handed the plate in her hand to Zhang Qilan. Zhang Qilan took it and frowned slightly. A loose thread didn't look good, but looking at the fine stitches, it didn't look like it was a case of stealing the work. With such fine stitches, how could it be so easy to loose the thread? Is this deliberately exposed? Luo Xiaowan leaned over to take a look and suddenly whispered. It's possible. Zhang Qilan also thought of this possibility and nodded repeatedly. Yes, it may be that someone deliberately cut the thread. Look at the stitches, they are so tight. Hearing what they said, some people also picked it up curiously and looked at it. After that, they all felt that it made sense. How could it be so easy to loose the thread with such fine stitches? I don't think so. I didn't make it so fine before, and it can be worn for a long time. The stitches left here are indeed evidence. Many people echoed. The middle-aged woman was a little flustered. Just as she was about to speak, Xiao Wanru had picked up a crumpled piece of cloth. Looking at the cloth, she turned to Madame Dong and said, Madame Dong, is this cloth from your shop? Madame Dong had already stood up at this time. She walked over to pick up the cloth and looked at it. She shook her head repeatedly and said, this is not the cloth from our shop. We don't have such cloth in our shop. If it's not the cloth from your shop, who else can it be? The middle-aged woman argued loudly. With the matter of the toggle and loop buttons, she had already felt guilty. She looked at Xiao Wanru with vigilance and said, Miss, where did you come from? How can you understand this kind of thing? Xiao Wanru and the others were all wearing curtain hats, so they couldn't be seen clearly. But judging from their imposing manner and the group of servant girls around them, she could tell that these people in front of her were either rich or noble. If she couldn't offend them, she'd better not offend them. There were so many dignitaries at the foot of the emperor. Who knew when she would bump into someone she couldn't afford to offend? The middle-aged woman also lived in the capital city, so she knew who she couldn't afford to offend, so she didn't speak ill of Xiao Wanru at this time. Xiao Wanru ignored the middle-aged woman and still looked at Madame Dong and said, Madame Dong, how do you remember clearly that this cloth is not from your shop? I remember very clearly that even if the pattern is similar, it is not like this, and it is impossible for it to be wrinkled with water. Madame Dong shook her head and said, I bought this kind of pattern in your shop before. I also bought it not long ago. Two idlers couldn't help but speak up. Look, someone has also bought it, but he dares to say that he didn't buy it. This must have come with that batch of goods. The good ones have been bought, and the bad ones are bought for small merchants like us. My poor husband is still lying in bed, waiting to take medicine. If something really happens to my batch of goods, how can our family survive? The middle-aged woman wanted to cry again, but she felt a sharp pain in her wrist again, which made her eyes look hideous. How could she cry? She could only stamp her feet hard. We did have this kind of pattern before, but it was not the same batch of cloth. That batch of cloth was actually bought from other places, and the cloth is not ours. Madame Dong had calmed down at this time. Where did you get the cloth? Xiao Wanru asked. It was bought from the imperial plantation. If you don't believe it, you can check the accounts directly, but it is definitely not this kind of cloth. If you don't believe it, you can compare the goods you bought at that time with hers. The cloth from the imperial plantation. For a moment, everyone was speechless. The owner of the imperial plantation was naturally the emperor, but it was not necessarily for the emperor's use. He could also choose some materials that the imperial palace did not like and put them in the Department of Internal Affairs to manage. However, whether they were directly in the hands of the emperor or the Department of Internal Affairs, the quality of this batch of goods must be guaranteed. Otherwise, if it was found out, it would not only be a matter of closing the shop, but also a matter of getting their heads chopped off. The accounts of the imperial plantation were also very clear, so it was impossible for the inferior ones to be used. It was a good thing. It was said that the Department of Internal Affairs was very strict, so it was not easy for them to intervene. If something really happened in the imperial plantation, it meant that several officials of the Department of Internal Affairs would definitely be beheaded. This kind of thing was not just a business matter. At this time, the onlookers did not dare to say anything. If they really wanted to investigate something, the people present were the cause, and maybe no one would be left unscathed. It was good to watch the fun, but it would be troublesome if they got themselves involved. Sister-in-law, do you mean that there is something wrong with the cloth from the imperial plantation? Xiao Wanru turned her eyes and looked at the middle-aged woman. At this time, the middle-aged woman also panicked. She just wanted to be greedy for money, and she did not intend to lose her life. She was also from the capital city. If it had something to do with the matter of the imperial plantation and said that there was something wrong with the things in the imperial plantation, she would definitely be dragged into prison later. I said that there is something wrong with the clothes in the butterfly clothing shop. I didn't say the imperial plantations. The materials in our shop all came from the imperial plantation. You can go and check. Even if the officials came, they would say the same thing. Madame Dong said, secretly wiping a cold sweat. Fortunately, she listened to the princess and changed the source of the goods to the imperial plantation. She tried to use the materials produced by the imperial plantation. You can go to other places and buy some. The middle-aged woman stammered. Since it is related to the imperial plantation, you can ask the people of the yamen to check it. If there is something false, the yamen will definitely not let me go. Madame Dong said with sincerity, but she did not look flustered. She came over and reached out to take the middle-aged woman's hand. Let's go to the yamen together and say that the goods sent from the imperial plantation are fake and good. Yujie quietly put down her hand and retreated behind Xiao Wanru. I won't go. It is you who sell the fake goods. The middle-aged woman looked around and panicked at this time. She did not dare to go to the yamen to complain that the imperial plantation sold shoddy goods. This would cause a big trouble. If my account book is fake, the yamen will definitely seal my door. Take these things of yours as evidence and find out what went wrong. At this time, Madame Dong was very persistent. She reached out and picked up a toggle-and loop buckle from the ground. Also check this toggle-and loop buckle. Who deliberately cut the thread inside and framed our shop? The stitches on it are still very clear. If it was not related to the imperial plantation, such a small matter would not be handled by the yamen. But now it was related to the imperial plantation, which meant that it was not something that ordinary people could provoke. The middle-aged woman just got some benefits and came to make a scene. If it really went to the yamen, she would not dare to do so. She struggled to break free from Madame Dong's hand. I run a small business. I have to support the elderly and children at home. I won't go to the yamen with you. If you can prove your innocence, go to the yamen to investigate this matter yourself. After saying that, she ignored Madame Dong and pushed through the crowd to go out, even ignoring the cloth and toggle-and loop buckle thrown on the ground. From her guilty look, it could be seen that what she said just now was false. It was obvious that she did not dare to check it. In the end, she still pretended to be polite and asked Madame Dong to check the proof. Sure enough, she deliberately came to make trouble. I don't know which mansion spent so much effort to deal with a small shop. Zhang Qilan curled her lips behind the curtain hat and said disdainfully. Chapter 980. Seeing the middle-aged woman run away, the crowd let out a faint smile. Many people suddenly realized that this woman was clearly here to blackmail them. Now that she had been exposed, and she might be sued, how could she dare to stay? Just now, he looked like a good person, but now, no matter how one looked at his back, he seemed a bit wretched. Which mansion is picking a fight? Aren't they all Mrs. and Madams of big families? Someone asked in surprise because Zhang Qilan's words changed the direction. Maybe they are in the same line. Two people in the same line are enemies. Another person said. Have you heard about what happened in Butterfly Clothing Shop before? A busybody and well-informed suddenly thought of something and lowered his voice. Seeing that he was about to tell a secret, many people immediately pricked their ears. Someone couldn't help asking, what happened? What happened? Does it have anything to do with what happened today? I heard that a few days ago, Princess Chen had a dispute with Infanta Yuan and here at the staircase. Later, they even went to the palace. Infanta Yuan and suffered a great loss. The man lowered his voice and said. Because this matter involved Infanta Yuan and Princess Chen, it was not a big rule. Many people still didn't know about it. Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. Someone understood and gasped. It must be, it should be. Many people who heard it agreed. They couldn't blame these people for thinking so. Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion had really done this kind of thing many times. In the past, Great Elder Princess's mansion had vented its anger on them, but no one knew what had happened to them in the end. In this way, it immediately made sense. Butterfly Clothing Shop did not provoke others. Except for Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion, who else could it be? Someone who knew Madame Dong advised, Madame Dong, let it go. What else can we do? People don't fight with officials. That's right. Do you think we can go against them? They are not ordinary people. Madame Dong, admit that you are unlucky. Peace makes money. Send some gifts to avoid this matter. Someone also helped Madame Dong to give advice. Madame Dong nodded and saluted to these enthusiastic people around her with gratitude on her face. The people who saw this increasingly felt that Madame Dong had been wronged, and all of them were full of sympathy for Madame Dong. It was really a good thing for Madame Dong to spend money to get rid of the disaster after being replaced by Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion. Butterfly Clothing Shop could not afford to provoke such a family. At this time, there was no more fun to watch. After persuading Madame Dong for a while, everyone dispersed in discussion. Go and see who that person is. Xiao Wanru turned her watery eyes and looked at the passerby who mentioned the grudge between her and Infanta Yuanfen. He was the one who had brought up the matter between him and Princess Yuanfen. This statement was beneficial to Xiao Wanru, but in that case, it also diverted everyone's attention to Infanta Yuanfen. Although this was beneficial to Xiao Wanru, if this person hadn't said it just now, Madame Dong's matter would have been very clear. It was just that they didn't know who was behind it. Now it all fell on Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion, and the suspicion of Chu Luyue was removed. Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion did vent its anger on Butterfly Clothing Shop, but before Madame Dong gave a clear reply, the people of Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion would not deal with Butterfly Clothing Shop, so only Prince Yu's mansion was left. Compared with Ruiping Great Elder Princess's mansion, Prince Yu's mansion also vented its anger on Butterfly Clothing Shop. However, no one knew that Duke Yang's mansion finally fell into such a situation because of the 2 sets of account books of Fanglan Embroidery Shop. Only the people of Prince Yu's mansion knew about it. Qing nodded and left silently. She was the most inconspicuous one among Xiao Wanru's servant girls. She usually didn't seem to be very favored. Moreover, she was promoted from an inferior servant girl, so she couldn't compare with other servant girls who had been close to Xiao Wanru since she was a child. When she went out, she seemed to be crowded outside, as if she had been excluded. But in fact, it was the easiest for her to go out like this. After Qing left, Xiao Wanru looked at Zhang Qilan and asked, "Shall we go in or go back? Since we're all out, let's go out for a walk." Zhang Qilan was obviously willing to leave like this. She rolled her eyes and pointed to the intersection in front of her. "Let's go over there. Xiaowan's matter has been solved. It happens that there's nothing else to do." Luo Xiaowan was also in a very relaxed mood today. It was rare for her to look at Xiao Wanru eagerly. Seeing that both of them were like this, Xiao Wanru could only nod and say, "Let's go." The 3 of them didn't take a carriage and just walked forward casually with their servant girls. As they strolled, there were no elders guarding them or old nannies telling them that they couldn't do this or that. The three of them strolled to their heart's content. They walked all the way to the imperial ancestral temple. Seeing the crowd retreating like flowing water, they hurriedly hid in the shops on the side. The examinees who were supposed to take the imperial examination in spring had all come out. Xiao Wanru suddenly raised her head and her face suddenly changed. The memory of her previous life suddenly appeared in her mind. It should be around this position. She lifted the corner of her dress and took a step forward. She hurriedly looked out and her eyes fell on a pavilion diagonally opposite. It should be a restaurant. The restaurant was very tall, with 4 floors. This was the place where the results were released. On the day of the results, most of the examinees would wait in this restaurant, so the business was better than in other places. It was also built high, so it could be clearly seen whether the results were released or not. There was even a very pleasant name here, Savant's Building. It turned out to be Savant's Building. "Princess, what's wrong with you?" Yujia asked anxiously when she saw Xiao Wanru's pale face. Her face, which had a faint blush just now, had become pale at this time. Even the color of her lips had become as clear as snow. Xiao Wanru held Yujia's hand and helped her to stand firm. The memory of her previous life came to her mind. The time was not right, but the position was right. Where was she at that time? She rolled her watery eyes and saw a carriage at the door of another shop. Yes, it was in that carriage where she saw the servant girl jump off the building. The results had been released, and many people knew their rankings. Those who didn't pass the examination had to return home, and those who passed the examination had to give a farewell party to their friends. Many people treated their friends in this savant's building, which was very lively. She also passed the examination at that time, so she should also drink in this restaurant. The person was right, the time was wrong, but the position was right. She looked at a private room on the 4th floor with an open window in horror. From her position, she couldn't see clearly who was in the room, but she vaguely saw that it was a woman. Her pores all over her body trembled. She might have miscalculated the time. The previous life was the previous life, and this life was this life. In the previous life, it was easy for Wang Xingxue to plot against Yan Shi. In this life, with her accident, it was not easy for Wang Xingxue to plot against Yan Shi. Some things would change. Let's go there and have a look. Xiao Wanru didn't have time to explain anymore. She walked to the savant's building diagonally opposite. Okay, I happen to be hungry. That restaurant is good. Zhang Qilan thought it was just right. After walking for so long, she originally wanted to find a place to rest. The savant's building was just right. When she wanted to come here in the past, her elder brother had never allowed her. He said that there were many men in the savant's building, and most of them were self-proclaimed romantic scholars. As a girl, it was better not to go to such a place. This made Zhang Qilan want to go. Now that Xiao Wanru had said to go, she naturally had to follow. She pulled Luo Xiaowan and followed Xiao Wanru into the savant's building. The scholars were all in the imperial examination. They had just come out, so they were not in the mood to eat here. They would all go back to wash up and sleep. At present, most of the people waiting here were the families and friends of the scholars. At this time, most of them had gone out to pick up people. It was rare that the savant's building was free at this time. The waiter was very sharp-eyed. At a glance, he knew that Xiao Wanru and the others were not women from ordinary families. He hurriedly greeted them with a smile. Is there a private room on the 4th floor? Xiao Wanru had calmed down at this time and asked softly. Yes, there is. Only one room is occupied. The others are all empty. Miss, you can choose at will. The waiter nodded and bowed in front of her. Xiao Wanru nodded and followed the waiter upstairs. When they reached the top, they saw that there were actually not many private rooms on the top. It was just a circle, which was much less than the private rooms below. There were about 10 private rooms. Most of the doors were slightly open, and only one door was tightly closed. It should be this one. Xiao Wanru walked to the door and looked at the door of the private room. She asked, "This one is not bad. Let's take this one." "Miss, I'm afraid that can't be done. There are guests inside," the waiter said with a bitter face. "The view from this room must be good. How long have the people inside been in it?" Yujia understood Xiao Wanru's intention, stepped forward and asked. She handed over a piece of silver and said, "Our master has taken a fancy to your private room. Can you make an exception and let the guests inside move to another room?" Looking at the silver in her hand, which was 2 taels of silver, the waiter was overjoyed and said repeatedly, "The guests inside are also 2 women. One left before, and the other stayed. It has been a long time since then. Maybe they have recovered. Miss, please wait a moment. I'll go in and ask them." "Thank you." Yujia nodded. The waiter pushed the door open and saw that there was indeed a woman sitting inside. Because the person outside was also a woman, the waiter did not close the door again. Through the door, Xiao Wanru clearly saw the woman inside. Wasn't she the woman who jumped off the building in her last life? The woman who accused Yan Shi of abandoning his wife and son and then jumped off the building to her death. Her face suddenly became cold. In this life, there was such a woman again. "Miss, can I trouble you?" The waiter came in and bowed to the woman first. Seeing that the woman turned her head to look out of the window and didn't seem to notice him coming in, he coughed in a low voice and said. Unexpectedly, as soon as he opened his mouth, the woman actually stood up and turned around to smile at him. That smile looked very horrifying, scaring the waiter so much that he took 2 steps back in fear. Chapter 981. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. The woman inside was also quite delicate and pretty, and she was in the prime of her life. She shouldn't have given little waiter such a feeling. He had seen all kinds of people in this restaurant, so how could he be afraid of a delicate woman? However, there was obviously something wrong with the woman in front of him. Her smile seemed to float on her face, and her eyes were blue. When she looked at others, she looked a little crazy. He didn't know if she was in a normal state now. Yes, she was not normal. Little waiter instantly got the answer. This woman was definitely not normal. The way she looked at others and the smile she showed when she turned her head showed a strange madness. What is she going to do? Xiao Wanru stood at the door and asked anxiously when she saw the woman push the window and there was a small door. This should be the place where the woman rushed out in the last life. It was in that place, in a very small space, that this woman complained about Yan Shi's bad habit of abandoning his wife and son. She said that in order to climb up the social ladder, in order to be with the woman he liked, he did not care about her, his first wife. And in order to provide for Yan Shi's education, she even went to such an unbearable state. In her words, Yan Shi was certainly a heartless person, and he was a heinous heartless person. Xiao Wanru was also implicated. She was a woman who didn't abide by the rules of unmarried girls, had an affair with a married man, and had an affair with him. After the woman finished complaining, she jumped down and died in front of everyone. A marriage contract floated down from the sky, confirming the relationship between her and Yan Shi. It also made her previous words more convincing. Xiao Wanru's words reminded little waiter. At the sight of the situation, he knew that it was not good. He took 2 steps forward, grabbed the woman's clothes, and dragged her in with all his might. The woman looked light and weak. After being pulled in by a man with all his might and falling heavily to the ground, she still looked crazy. She stared at little waiter and even murmured. You abandoned me, and the child. The child is dead. I don't want to live anymore. Young Master Yan Shi, I hate you. It's all because of you. I was originally just a girl from an ordinary family. It was you who said that you would treat me, well. Now that you are about to pass the imperial examination, you abandoned me and the child. The child died of illness, and you didn't even come to visit. Since that's the case, why am I still alive? I might as well die. Yan Shi, I won't let you off even if I die. You heartless man, heartless man. Is she crazy? Zhang Qilan also noticed that something was wrong with this woman. She took 2 steps forward and looked at the woman who fell to the ground. She looks crazy. Luo Xiaowan was a little scared and hid behind Zhang Qilan. Sure enough, it was the same as in his previous life. It was all because of Yan Shi. What was different from his previous life was that the woman did not have a marriage contract with her. It was probably his reminder that made Yan Shi wary, so she did not sign the marriage contract without knowing it. Another difference was that there was no accusation against her as in his previous life. This marriage was originally arranged by Madame D and Yan Shi under the influence of Madame Jiang of Marquis Xing, but it became the evidence that she and Yan Shi had an affair. Although Yan Shi did not have a good ending, her reputation was also ruined. However, the initiator put on a kind face. There was a chill in her eyes that penetrated to the bone. Sensing the evil spirit in Xiao Wanru's eyes, Yujie quietly leaned in front of Xiao Wanru, blocking Zhang Qilan's gaze. Although she didn't know why her master suddenly became so angry, it was best not to be discovered at this time. Seeing Yujie leaning in front of her, Xiao Wanru's eyes flashed with a trace of clarity. Her eyes fell on the small side door in front of the window. Only then did she find that there seemed to be a small balcony outside the small side door. The woman should have chosen this place. Ask the Yamen officials to come here. We have to find out where the woman who came with her came from. It should be that woman who gave her some medicine to make her go crazy for a while. Xiao Wanru withdrew her eyes and said, Okay, please take a look at it, Mrs. I'll call them right away. Seeing the woman's situation, the waiter also knew that there was a big problem. Then he looked at the small side door and felt even more scared. This small side door was left for the guests in this private room to get some fresh air after drinking too much. It was only available in this private room on the 4th floor. Other private rooms did not have it, and it was usually locked for fear of accidents. But now this side door was opened. Looking at the woman's appearance, it was obvious that she was crazy and wanted to jump down. Go ahead, we'll help you take a look. Yujie nodded. The waiter hurriedly went down and soon came in with a few people, one of whom looked like the shopkeeper of the restaurant. After entering the restaurant, he asked someone to tie the woman up in case she went crazy and got into trouble. He walked up to Xiao Wanru, bowed deeply to Xiao Wanru, and said, Thank you for your help, Mrs. Please help me to be a witness. Of course, this matter could not be settled privately. At a glance, it was obvious that the woman had been drugged. Xiao Wanru and the others were witnesses. In a while, when the Yamen officials came over, the restaurant could not get away with it. It was better to have someone as a witness. Our master doesn't have the patience to stay behind to be a witness for you, but this woman has gone crazy and is still muttering something. We can check it out. Our master knows the Yan Shi that this woman is talking about, but how did a maid like her get involved with young Master Yan? Receiving Xiao Wanru's signal, Yujie took a step forward and said, You know Child Yan. The shopkeeper of the restaurant was overjoyed. Now this woman was still muttering Yan Shi's name from time to time. It had only been a short time, but the shopkeeper had heard it several times. He had been worried that it was difficult to investigate this matter. The waiter who had left didn't see clearly the woman because she was wearing a curtain hat, so he didn't know who she was. There was only one time when the waiter came in to deliver the dishes and saw the side profile of the woman. She was very beautiful, but when the waiter brought the dishes in again, the woman had already put on her veil hat again. In the end, when she left, she didn't show her face again. When the people from the Yamen came to ask about it later, the people in the restaurant didn't know anything, which would definitely make them suspicious. Now hearing Yujie say that they knew Child Yan, how could they not be overjoyed? Every debt had its debtor. This matter was related to Child Yan, but it had nothing to do with their restaurant. Of course, The side door over there should also be nailed down to avoid such an accident. If someone really died, the business of their restaurant would be ruined. The examinees all wanted a good compliment, so no one was willing to come here to drink again. I don't know if the child Yen she mentioned is the one I know. Logically speaking, Child Yen is a distinguished guest of Marquis Xing's mansion. It's impossible for him to have anything to do with a servant girl. Not to mention a servant girl, even her miss is unlikely to have anything to do with Child Yen. Yuchie said in confusion. She looked up and down at the tied woman, seeming to be full of doubts. It sounded like she was talking to herself, and her voice was not high. The shopkeeper strained his ears to listen. What he heard now might be strong evidence. He couldn't miss anything. Now hearing that it was Marquis Xing's mansion, he breathed a sigh of relief excitedly. He finally found his enemy. A distinguished guest of Marquis Xing's mansion. Zhang Qilan also heard it and said in surprise. Yes, he has been living in Marquis Xing's mansion to study. I haven't heard of him having a wife, let alone a child. My second uncle has sent someone to check it before. Xiao Wanru said. She didn't mind dragging Xiao Jing out at this time. That's strange. She is still a servant girl, but she keeps talking about Child Yen so crazily. It seems that someone wants to deal with Child Yen. She is just a servant girl, so it doesn't matter if she dies. But if she is framed on someone else, it will be big trouble. Zhang Qilan said. Looking at the servant girl's still crazy eyes, she felt that there was something wrong. She was just a servant girl. If she could frame the person she wanted to frame, the death of a servant girl was nothing. If they had come up a little later, the servant girl would have jumped down. No one would have known that there was something wrong with the servant girl at that time, and no one would have known that she was a servant girl. Shopkeeper, we'll go first. If the people of the Yamen want to ask something, they can go to Marquis Xing's mansion to ask. Child Yen should be the candidate of this imperial examination. I don't know who framed him and made such a servant girl. Xiao Wanru said. After that, she turned around and left. Zhang Qilan and Luo Xiaowan followed closely. Although they had encountered this matter, it was inconvenient for them to get involved in it. Young madams, young madams. The innkeeper wanted to stop them, but he was stopped by a few servant girls rudely. You can't stop our Mississippi. Today, our miss helped you. What happens next has nothing to do with our miss. Zhang Qilan's servant girl said impolitely. It's inconvenient to get our miss involved in this kind of thing. Luo Xiaowan's servant girl was newly selected by the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu. Her style of doing things was similar to that of the young madam of Marquis Yangxiu. She was tougher. Yuchie glanced at the shopkeeper rudely and said, if our master wants to leave, no one can stop her. After that, she turned around and left. The shopkeeper didn't dare to stop them again. At first glance, he knew that these were noble ladies with extraordinary identities. It was understandable that they didn't want to get involved in this kind of thing. Moreover, he had an explanation and knew who to look for. When the people of the Yamen asked about it later, he had something to say. If he stopped them again, he was afraid that he would provoke the anger of these noble ladies from aristocratic families. He hurriedly asked the people at the door to get out of the way and make way for them. Then he followed them respectfully and sent them to the gate. Seeing them leave, he returned to deal with the matter, while waiting anxiously for the people of the Yamen to come over. Chapter 982. When Yan Shi returned to Marquis Xing's mansion, he was so tired that he could hardly open his eyes. After taking a bath, he didn't have time to eat and went to bed first. Young master, young master. There seemed to be a servant's voice in his ear, which was a little far away. Young master, young master. This time, the voice seemed to be in his ear, and someone was pulling him. Yan Shi suddenly opened his eyes and looked straight into the sky. The servant appeared in front of him with an anxious face. Young master, get up quickly. An official is coming. Yan Shi's vision became clear. He sat up with his hands covering his dull head, and the servant helped him put on his clothes. What official? Yan Shi asked. He didn't wake up and had a headache. After taking a sip of the warm tea served by the servant, he asked. He said that he is from the Ministry of Justice and wants to see you. The servant reported in a low voice. Yan Shi frowned and stood up. Why did the Ministry of Justice come to see him at this time? He had nothing to do with the Ministry of Justice. Could it be that something happened in the imperial examination in spring? His eyebrows twitched fiercely, and he woke up for a moment. His face also became a little serious. If it was really like this, something bad had happened. He stood up and walked out in a hurry. Are you Child Yan Shi? Two people from the Ministry of Justice were waiting outside. Hearing the sound in the room, they turned around and looked Yan Shi up and down for a few times before saying slowly. What's the matter? Yan Shi resisted the discomfort in his head and asked. We have something to ask Child Yan. Is it convenient for Child Yan to go to the Ministry of Justice with us? The people from the Ministry of Justice were very polite. Although Child Yan was not an important person, they were in Marquis Xing's mansion, so they had to be polite. What's the matter? Yan Shi didn't move and asked again. Seeing that he didn't want to leave without asking clearly, the two people from the Ministry of Justice looked at each other and gave way. There was nothing unexpected about this matter. Even if Child Yan really abandoned his wife, it was a small matter. There was no need to offend him and Marquis Xing's mansion behind him for a servant girl. Child Yan, have you ever married a woman and had a child? Then you abandoned your wife and child regardless of the child's illness? A person from the Ministry of Justice coughed in a low voice and asked straightforwardly. The shopkeeper of the Savant's restaurant said that he had heard this from the young ladies of the aristocratic families, but he didn't know if it was true or not. I got married. And a child? Yan Shi was really stunned. Just now, he was thinking about the imperial examination. He didn't expect it to be about him. He opened his mouth and didn't know what to say. When did it happen? Why didn't he know? What nonsense are you talking about? Since our young master came to the capital city, he has been studying in Marquis Xing's mansion. Basically, he doesn't even see outsiders, let alone get married. When he came to the capital city, our master asked Marquis Xing to find a good marriage for our young master. How could he have a child now? The manservant was so angry that he glared at the two officials from the Ministry of Justice. How could they come up with such a ridiculous idea? The two officials from the Ministry of Justice looked at each other again and carefully observed their expressions. Although their expressions were different, they were both full of shock and didn't seem to be fake. Where did this come from? Who is framing me like this? Yan Shi came to her senses. Her face first turned pale, then red, and she shouted angrily. Good. How could there be such a rumor? It inexplicably ruined his reputation. How could he not be angry? Child Yan, you'd better go to the Ministry of Justice with us and recognize the person. That woman was supposed to jump down from the top of the Savant's building. She seemed to be in a daze, as if she had been drugged. She kept saying that you had abandoned your wife and son. Fortunately, she was discovered and is still in the Ministry of Justice. The official from the Ministry of Justice said. She even wanted to commit suicide by jumping from the building. The Savant's restaurant was where he came out. If the woman really jumped at that time, he would really be unable to explain himself. Yan Shi's face immediately turned pale. He knew what this meant. If such a thing really happened, even if he was right this time, he wouldn't have a good ending. The dead couldn't tell the truth. Yan Shi's current situation was exactly what it meant. Let's go. Without hesitation, he nodded and went out with the manservant, without informing Marquis Xing. When he arrived at the Ministry of Justice and saw the woman inside, his face changed dramatically. Child Yan, do you know this woman? An official from the Ministry of Justice who came with him asked. It seemed that he knew this woman. I know her. She is Miss Xiao's servant girl. She has nothing to do with our young master. She said that she abandoned his wife and son. Our young master doesn't even want her to be his concubine. Even Miss Xiao is not qualified to be his concubine, let alone her. The manservant also saw the woman and shouted angrily. He pointed at the woman who seemed to be unconscious and said, "Our young master saved Miss Xiao, but was entangled by Miss Xiao. She pretended to be pitiful in front of our young master, but on the other hand, she had an affair with Child Wang." Thinking of the grievances his young master had suffered, the manservant was so angry that his eyes turned red. He had thought that Miss Xiao was a good girl, but he did not expect that she had an affair with Child Wang in private and seemed to want to plot against his young master. Hearing the hidden meaning in the manservant's words, the official's eyes lit up and he asked hurriedly, "Who is Child Wang? Who is Miss Xiao?" If the shopkeeper of the savant's restaurant said that this woman came here with another woman before and if he guessed correctly, that woman might be Miss Xiao. The official of the Ministry of Justice keenly felt that this matter should have something to do with Child Wang and Miss Xiao. The doctor had come to see the woman and found that she had been drugged. Before she was drugged, the doctor had repeatedly told her to say these words. She, who was hesitant, kept repeating these words and doing the action of telling the truth. Jumping off the building was a predetermined action. There must be a plot, and the plot was indeed Child Yen in front of him. The manservant's words proved this point. The most suspicious people were Miss Xiao and Child Wang. They didn't know where these two people came from, but it seemed that they had a grudge against Yen Shi. After listening to Yen Shi's cause and effect, the official of the Ministry of Justice was more certain that this was a deliberate plot, and the target was of course Child Yen. It was clear that Wang Xingxue found an unknown woman and set a trap for Child Yen. However, it was unknown why the woman named Zhao Qingyu in the trap became Zhao Qingyu's servant girl. It seemed that Zhao Qingyu knew Wang Xingxue's intention and deliberately murdered the servant girl. The Ministry of Justice sent people to Wang Xingxue's residence and Zhao Qingyu's residence to arrest them. At Zhao Qingyu's residence, they saw Zhao Qingyu, who was about to escape. Wang Xingxue had not received the news at this time. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, he did not come to Zhao Qingyu's residence and was arrested in his home. Now that the two main suspects had been caught, it was easy to find out what happened next. First, the waiter of the savant's restaurant recognized Zhao Qingyu as the woman who had accompanied the servant girl. She was also the one who had left the servant girl behind and left alone. Zhao Qingyu, or Ning Kaixian, did not dare to hide anything at this time. She told the waiter that Wang Xingxue had conspired with her to plot against Yen Shi and put all the blame on Wang Xingxue. Wang Xingxue knew that he could not escape this time, so he could only admit his crime. He only said that he was jealous that Yen Shi was valued by Marquis Xing's mansion, so he set up such a trap in order to ruin Yen Shi's future. They could not get any more information from him. The Ministry of Justice put them in prison first and planned to investigate clearly. If it was just jealousy, it could be justified, but they always felt that something was missing. Marquis Xing's mansion had never been good to Wang Xingxue. How could he deliberately plot against Yen Shi just because of this? When Yen Shi returned to Marquis Xing's mansion, it was already late. When he got off the carriage, he saw a supervisor waiting there. When he saw him, he came up and saluted, "Child Yen, our Marquis invites you." At this time, Yen Shi looked at the sky and said in surprise. Marquis Xing had never come to see him at this time in the past. Child Yen has just finished the exam. He should have let Child Yen have a good rest, but Marquis heard that someone from the Ministry of Justice said that it was about Child Yen, so he was worried and specially asked me to wait here for Child Yen. The supervisor said with a smile. After such a thing happened, as the host, it was reasonable for Marquis Xing to pay attention to it. Okay. Yen Shi nodded and followed the supervisor inside. Xiao Jing, Marquis Xing, met him in his own yard. There was his study beside the main room. Xiao Jing, who was sitting in the study for a long time with a gloomy face, did not even turn on the light in the study, and his servant dared not go in. Hearing that Yen Shi had come, Xiao Jing asked someone to light the light and invited him in to talk. After Yen Shi bowed and the two of them sat down, Yen Shi said, nephew, did something happen? Why did the people from the Ministry of Justice find you? If there's anything you need, just tell me. I'll be able to help my nephew a little. Xiao Jing said with a gentle expression. Tuan Tuan's smiling face looked very kind, inexplicably convincing. Thank you, Marquis. It's Child Wang of our mansion. Yen, she said with a frown. Wang Xingxue was Marquis Xing's nephew. Although they were not close, he was still a junior of Marquis Xing, so these words were not pleasant to hear. Wang Xingxue. What happened to him again? Xiao Jing frowned and the smile on his face faded. This kid is always making trouble. I've talked to him several times, but he doesn't seem to know what to do. What did he do this time? It seemed that Wang Xingxue was really not a good person. Yen, she was increasingly grateful to Princess Chen. If she hadn't reminded him, he would not have seen Wang Xingxue's true colors. However, since Marquis Xing knew that Wang Xingxue was not a good person and usually saw that Wang Xingxue was close to her, why didn't he remind her? Others didn't know the affairs of the mansion, but did Marquis Xing not know it? She actually had some doubts because of Xiao Jing's words, which had never happened before. Chapter 983. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Marquis Xing was very kind to her. In the past, she just thought that Marquis Xing was a good person. Although the two families had been friends for generations, they had not contacted each other for many years. Marquis Xing was very kind to her and was a respectable elder. But was it all true? Yen, she didn't show it on her face. She just nodded and said, he conspired with a female prostitute to set a trap for me. He also knocked out the female prostitute's maid. While she was in a daze, she insisted that I had abandoned her and was ready to jump down from the 4th floor of the savant's restaurant to frame me. Yen, she felt that the woman was not a good person. Since she had done such a thing with Wang Xingxue, she should not be the daughter of a good family. She must be a prostitute. She called herself Xiao Qingyu one moment and Ning Kaixian the next. Yen, she did not know whether it was true or not. What? How dare he do this? Xiao Jing was furious when he heard that. He slammed his hand on the table and said, it has nothing to do with him. Why would he do this to you? He said he was jealous that I was valued by the Marquis. Yen, she used Wang Xingxue's reason. Nonsense, what nonsense? Xiao Jing stood up and spun around angrily behind the desk. If he had been a good student, I would have valued him. If it hadn't been for him, I would have helped him win the imperial examination. After he finished speaking, he turned around and bowed to Yen Shi. It's all my fault for not disciplining him properly. He actually went down the path of evil and caused you to suffer as well. He almost ruined our plans. I hope that you can forgive me for this sin of not disciplining him properly. Yen Shi hurriedly stood up and avoided Xiao Jing's salute. You're welcome, Marquis. This has nothing to do with you. It's Wang Xingxue's own business. This child is a disappointment. He seemed to be ambitious and had an imperial examination. I took care of him wholeheartedly, but I didn't expect him to become like this. His sister is dead, and he is left alone outside, doing nothing good. It's my fault. I should have found him a decent job long ago. Xiao Jing stood up and said with a little bitterness in his eyes, it's all my fault. Seeing Xiao Jing's sad expression, Yen Shi consoled him, Marquis, you love him so much, yet he's jealous of someone else's attention. This is too much. Now that this matter has fallen into the hands of the Ministry of Justice, they will definitely investigate it thoroughly. Marquis, you don't have to blame yourself. Speaking of this matter, it really had nothing to do with Marquis Xing. They were distant from each other. Besides, Wang Xingxue was a failure. Wang Xingxue was a disappointment. Wang Xingxue was too kind for him to blame. This thought strangely rose up in Yen Shi's mind, and then strangely disappeared from his mind, leaving behind only a trace of it. It's me who let you down and made you feel wronged. With a face full of shame, Xiao Jing stood up, turned around, and sat down behind the table. What did the Ministry of Justice say about this? If it's verified, it will be a crime of intentional frame-up and murder. Although the servant girl is fine, if the waiter of the savant's building hadn't stopped her at that time, she would have died, Yanxi said bluntly. Thinking of this, he was still scared. With the life of a servant girl, she ruined his future. Her heart was vicious. The dead could not testify. At that time, he couldn't explain himself even if he had a lot of mouths. When he compared what had happened before and after, many things came to the surface. First, he helped to rent the courtyard over there, and he was the one who showed up. Wang Xingxue also took him to see it several times, and the people around him had also seen him. These would become evidence, so all the evidence would show that he had something to do with this servant girl. At that time, Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian would say that she was not a servant girl and had only accepted her because she was pitiful. That would be a complete trap, and he would have no possibility to explain himself after he fell into it. The more he thought about it, the colder he felt. Everything about him had been calculated. Was it really Wang Xingxue's intention? How could a worthless wastrel have such a meticulous plan and spend so much effort just to deal with him? Murder? Is the servant girl all right? Xiao Jing asked with concern. It could be seen that he really cared about Wang Xingxue. The servant girl is fine. She seems to be much more sober now, but she is not very well overall. The side effect of the medicine seems to be very big. I don't know if it will have a big impact in the future. Yanxi answered implicitly. What will happen next depends on the judgment of the Ministry of Justice. Xiao Jing didn't say anything. He sat behind the large desk with a frown on his face, his brows furrowed. The room became quiet, and only the lamp on the table flickered, making a small sound. Yanxi looked at the square brick in front of him, and his attention seemed to be on the square brick, quietly waiting for Xiao Jing to speak. After a long while, she heard Xiao Jing's gentle voice. Nephew, go back and have a rest. You just finished the exam and made such a mess. At this time, you don't have the energy to deal with this kind of thing. You'd better go back first. I'll ask the kitchen to prepare dinner for you. Go to bed after dinner. Thank you, Marquis. Yanxi stood up and cupped his hands in obeisance. He was indeed very tired, but at this time, he forced himself to hold on. He could rest after listening to Xiao Jing's words, so how could he sit still? Xiao Jing nodded and watched Yanxi leave, frowning tightly. He could not let Wang Xingxue be locked up like this. This matter could be big or small. In fact, the most important thing was Yanxi. Although the servant girl was also the victim, she was just a slave, and the purchase contract was still in the hands of that woman, so it was not a big deal. Unfortunately, Yanxi pretended to be stupid and ignored him, as if she did not understand the meaning of his words. He had to save Wang Xingxue, or something might happen to him. Yanxi returned to his room. As expected, the dinner had been prepared early. The supervisor was very attentive, and the dishes were also very good. He was more respectful to Yanxi than before. In the past, Yanxi would only think that the servants trampled on the weak and flattered the strong. Seeing that he might be a senior high school student, they naturally flattered him. But after Wang Xingxue's matter, for the first time, he felt that it might not be what he thought. After eating a little, he asked the servants to take it away. After washing up, he lay on the bed, but could not fall asleep for a long time. Although he was very sleepy, he was in high spirits. He tossed and turned, wondering why Wang Xingxue would harm him. How could it be possible that he was jealous of his higher regard for Marquis Xing? When he was having dinner just now, he also inquired about Wang Xingxue's matter. Although the supervisor flattered him, his words were very strict, and he did not get any useful information at all. This made Yanxi more suspicious. If there was really nothing, it should be very easy to inquire about Wang Xingxue's matter. Why did the supervisor of Marquis Xing's mansion care so much about it and keep Wang Xingxue's matter tightly to himself? Could it be that there was another reason? In fact, the supervisor of Marquis Xing's mansion could not be blamed for this. What Wang Xingxue had done was really shameful. Even as a supervisor of Marquis Xing's mansion, he felt ashamed to say this kind of thing. It seemed that since Child Wang came to Marquis Xing's mansion, he had not done anything good. He was like this, so was his sister. They did not seem to be good. In the current situation, it could be said that he had brought it upon himself and could not blame others. However, Master Marquis told him not to talk about Wang Xingxue, which was another reason why the supervisor could not say it. Marquis Xing was very strange, so was Wang Xingxue. He had just arrived in the capital city and had met Wang Xingxue before, so it was impossible for him to become enemies with Wang Xingxue. If there was someone behind Wang Xingxue's plot against him, this person should know his whereabouts. It was too coincidental that the girl was robbed by a bully when he entered the capital city that day. Who else knew that he had come to the capital city? His heart skipped a beat. The people of Marquis Xing's mansion should know. Except for Marquis Xing's mansion, he could not think of anyone else who could plot it as if it were true. Was it Marquis Xing? She was not familiar with all the people in Marquis Xing's mansion. There were only Marquis Xing and the first young master in the outer courtyard. He rarely met the womenfolk in the inner courtyard. Only Princess Chen had helped him, and he did not know the rest of them until now. Did he have to go to Princess Chen to solve his doubts? As soon as this idea came to his mind, he persisted in the bottom of his heart and had a feeling of wanting to get to the bottom of it. Tomorrow, he would go to see Princess Chen. Perhaps Princess Chen could solve his doubts. She subconsciously excluded Marquis Xing. The next day, Xiao Wanru met Shi in Prince Chen's mansion. Hearing that he had come, Xiao Wanru was stunned at first, but she still asked someone to lead him to see Child Yan, whom she had met in a flower hall in the outer courtyard. As soon as he entered the door, Shi bowed deeply to the woman sitting on the chair and said, "Thank you for your help, Princess Chen." "It's just convenient," Xiao Wanru said with a smile. She slightly raised the corners of her mouth and said leisurely with her eyes, "Child Yan, how did you do in the exam?" "It should be okay," she said with uncertainty. After studying hard, how could he be so sure that he had passed the exam? He was good, but none of the candidates who came to take the exam would be wrong. All of them were rare talents. "Congratulations, Child Yan," Xiao Wanru said with a slight smile. "May I ask if Princess Chen was also around the savants building yesterday?" Shi lowered his head and said. The eyebrows of the girl in front of him were so delicate that he would feel frightened if he looked at her for a long time. He had to sigh that this girl was extremely beautiful and was definitely not comparable to ordinary women. "Yesterday, I went to the savants building and saw what happened in it." Xiao Wanru knew what he was asking about, so she did not deliberately hide it. When she spoke yesterday, she mentioned second uncle. In fact, the Ministry of Justice was not only investigating it, but also didn't find out that she was involved because of Chu Liuchen's intention. Yesterday, was it really Princess Chen who saved him? Although she had guessed it from the words of the officials of the Ministry of Justice, he still couldn't help raising his head excitedly and looking at Xiao Wanru, who was sitting on the chair. Chapter 984. It's just a piece of cake. It's not a big deal. I just happened to meet him. Xiao Wanru smiled slightly and said lightly. "Princess Chen, can I ask what kind of person Wang Xingxue is?" She tried to calm down and asked. "Wang Xingxue has a good relationship with our mansion. In the beginning, he used him to frame me. Before I entered the mansion and after I returned to the mansion, he and his sister both framed me. Later, because of me, he was stripped of his official title in the imperial examination." Xiao Wanru thought for a while and said calmly. She shouldn't say these words. After all, it was related to the reputation of Marquis Xing's mansion. However, in Xiao Wanru's heart, Marquis Xing's mansion was very low. In the last life, although she and she didn't know each other, they were framed together. Even when they died, they didn't figure out why they ended up in this situation. After being reborn, she stood at a higher position than in the last life and could see further. She had a clearer understanding of the thoughts of the second branch of Marquis Xing's mansion. Because of the fate in the last life, Xiao Wanru reached out to help Yan Shi. Hearing Xiao Wanru's words, Yan Shi was stunned at first, and then her face changed dramatically. She was not stupid and naturally understood the meaning. If it weren't for someone else's instruction, Wang Xingxue wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Xiao Wanru's identity was special. If she was harmed, the second branch of Marquis Xing's mansion would benefit the most. Although it was not very reasonable for Wang Xingxue to harm her because of her jealousy, it was justifiable. However, it was impossible for him to frame Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru was a girl in the inner courtyard, the only daughter of Infanta Qinghua and the heir of Marquis in the last life, and she had Rui, a great elder princess, as her grandmother. Wang Xingxue was so bold that he dared to harm Xiao Wanru. Moreover, there was one more thing that she couldn't think about. Wang Xingxue, who intended to harm Xiao Wanru, still had a good relationship with Marquis Xing's mansion. Why? Was someone protecting him? The identity of this person was obvious. Why does Marquis Xing want to deal with me? Even if she refused to admit it, Yan Shi had to recognize the facts in front of her. She used to be Madam of Marquis Xing, but now Madam of Marquis Xing was not in the mansion. It was said that she had been sent to the Yuhui nunnery. In this mansion, there was no one except Marquis Xing who could order Wang Xingxue around and let him enter and leave Marquis Xing's mansion safely. Thinking of what Marquis Xing said yesterday, implying that Wang Xingxue was pitiful and asking him to let him go, he became more and more clear that this should be the truth. I don't know about young Master Yan. Could it be that he offended someone when he entered the capital? Xiao Wanru smiled slightly and raised her watery eyes. In fact, she was also curious. It was the same in the last life, and it was the same in this life. Xiao Jing seemed to want to ruin Yan Shi's future. What did he mean? When I arrived in the capital city, this trap was set. I just arrived in the capital city at that time and didn't even see Marquis Xing. Yan Shi's voice became hoarse. He couldn't understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. He just couldn't figure out why this was happening. Is it because of young Master Yan's family? Xiao Wanru asked tentatively. Our two mansions have been friends for generations. I heard from my father that he had the best relationship with Princess Chen's father at that time and had an ordinary relationship with this marquis. But even so, he shouldn't have set me up like this. Yan Shi said with a pale face. It was really difficult for him to accept that a kind elder, who he respected, had become a scheming person at the moment. Young Master Yan, you can ask your father about it. Xiao Wanru shook her head. She really didn't know about it, but she was sure that it should have something to do with Yan Shi's family. Thank you for your help, Princess Chen. Yan Shi stood up, bowed deeply to Xiao Wanru, and then said goodbye to Xiao Wanru. Xiao Wanru asked Yujie to send Yan Shi to the gate. Since Chu Luchen was not here, Yan Shi could not stay in the mansion for long. It was good for everyone to leave early after thanking her. Your Highness, Wang Xingxue is doomed this time, right? Chu Lu, who also hated Wang Xingxue very much, said happily. In her opinion, Wang Xingxue was unbeatable. He had been defeated again and again, but he had survived again and again, which was really depressing. Do you know where Wang Xingxue's mansion is? Xiao Wanru asked with a smile. I know. Chu Lu nodded. Send a letter to Ning Xueqing and ask her to go to the Yamen to see Wang Xingxue. Xiao Wanru stood up and walked to one side of the flower hall. There was a table by the window, on which there were all kinds of writing brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. She picked up the brush, dipped it in the ink, thought for a while, wrote a letter, and put it in the window to dry. Then she put it in an ordinary envelope, handed it to Chu Lu, and said, send it to Ning Xueqing and tell her that someone from the Ministry of Justice asked her to go there. Rest assured, Your Highness. I'll go now. Chu Lu understood tacitly and nodded. She took the letter and left in a hurry to find someone to send it. Yujie happened to come back from sending Yan Shi. She passed by Chu Lu, went into the room to fetch water for Xiao Wanru to wash her hands, and said, "Miss, why did you send a letter to Ning Xueqing? She's not a good person." Xiao Wanru wiped the water on her hands with a handkerchief and said lazily, "This matter doesn't make a big deal, and others can still take advantage of it. You have to make a big deal out of it and muddy the waters so that others dare not do anything. Ning Xueqing will save Wang Xingxue. She and Wang Xingxue are tied together. Won't you help Wang Xingxue by doing this?" Yujie took the handkerchief in confusion, blinked her eyes, and said. She really didn't understand why Xiao Wanru did this. Originally, no one knew that Wang Xingxue had been locked up. Now that Ning Xueqing knew it, she had to find ways to save him. If it were something else, Ning Xueqing would definitely save him. But now Wang Xingxue not only committed this crime, but also got involved with another woman, and this woman is his biological sister. Xiao Wanru said coldly with a trace of sharp coldness flashing in her eyes. Ning Kaixian and Ning Xueqing were not good people, and they were both scheming and vicious. At this moment, how could they care about each other? Ning Kaixian and Wang Xingxue were in cahoots, but Ning Xueqing must not know. Your Highness, after Ning Xueqing made such a big deal, the matter has been exposed, right? Yujie's eyes lit up and she became happy. She didn't like this pair of sisters either. Let's wait and see. Xiao Wanru smiled slightly and said meaningfully. Of course, the pair of sisters were not the only targets she cared about. Now as long as these things were muddled up, the truth could surface little by little. It had been a long time. She only wanted to stir up some things and dig out the truth one by one through such a mess. After getting the letter, Ning Xueqing read it for a long time before she made up her mind to go to the Ministry of Justice. She went to the prison cell of the Ministry of Justice with a maid and an old maid and told the jailer that she wanted to see Wang Xingxue. Who are you to him? The jailer looked Ning Xueqing up and down and asked with a frown. Wang Xingxue's matter had happened yesterday, and he had been arrested with 2 women. It sounded very erotic. The Ministry of Justice was full of rumors, and there were all kinds of guesses. Unexpectedly, another woman popped up at this time. I'm his wife, and I came here to see him specially. Ning Xueqing gently wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief, and tears fell down. She looked so pitiful that she looked like a delicate little wife. Are you really his wife? The jailer said in disbelief. After that, he muttered to himself, wasn't it his wife who came in with him before? It's really strange that a liar has so many wives. Ning Xueqing's face changed. She was now Wang Xingxue's concubine, so she couldn't bear to hear anyone talk about Wang Xingxue's wife. She was also the most sensitive about this kind of thing. What does this officer mean by that? Did someone else also come to visit him? This. How could it be possible? I'm his only wife. Ning Xueqing's tears fell down one by one, and she looked extremely miserable. She looked at the jailer with tears in her eyes and said, It's impossible for my husband to have other women. You must be mistaken. How could you be mistaken? It's certain that there is a relationship between the 2 of them. Don't you know it? The jailer looked at Ning Xueqing up and down and felt sorry for her. He guessed that she was another woman who had been cheated and thought that her husband was so good. Sir, can you let me see that woman? There must be a mistake. There must be a mistake. Ning Xueqing cried. She didn't want to see Wang Xingxue at this time. She wanted to see that woman first. What kind of woman had seduced Wang Xingxue and made him go out all the time? If Wang Xingxue was here, he would definitely rest in her room. Although she was Wang Xingxue's concubine, she was the legal wife in the Wang's mansion. However, Wang Xingxue did have some problems these days. Every time he said that Marquis Xing had something to do, he would go out and sometimes did not come back at night. When he came back the next day, he looked very tired. He said that Marquis Xing had sent him to do something shameful, and it was not convenient for him to tell Ning Xueqing. Although Ning Xueqing was suspicious, she just kept it in her heart when she saw that Wang Xingxue looked normal. Now, after hearing the jailer's words, she immediately realized that she had been cheated by Wang Xingxue and wished she could scratch Wang Xingxue's face right now. Of course, the most important thing for her now was to find that bitch and see what kind of bitch dared to seduce Wang Xingxue. Since you are Wang Xingxue's wife, it's not appropriate for you to look at other women. The jailer coughed in a low voice and disagreed. Ning Xueqing took a purse from the servant girl and handed it to the jailer. Then she turned sideways and bowed to the jailer while crying. Officer, I actually just want to see what kind of person she is. Why did you fall in love with another woman? What did I do wrong to make you treat me like this? Or is there something good about that woman? I'll go and have a look. In the end, she almost choked with sobs. It was clear that she wanted to compromise, which made people feel that she was a virtuous wife. She was deceived by her husband, but she still wanted to win her husband's heart back. She was so virtuous and magnanimous. Of course, she wouldn't do anything to the woman in the cell. The jailer pinched the purse in his hand. It was not thin. Then he looked at her tearful face. After thinking for a while, he felt that nothing bad would happen, so he nodded at once and said, "Just go in and have a look. Don't say anything. Maybe she doesn't know that there is a legal wife like you here." "Yes, thank you, officer." Ning Xueqing bowed gracefully. Chapter 985. Ning Kaixian and Wang Xingxue had not been sentenced and were temporarily detained, so they were not divided into men's and women's prisons. Coincidentally, Ning Kaixian was locked up next to Wang Xingxue. Ning Kaixian had put most of the blame on Wang Xingxue, looking confused and ignorant. Now that there was no one else around, she immediately softened and leaned against Wang Xingxue, wiping her tears but saying nothing. She looked extremely aggrieved but did not know what to say. Wang Xingxue's face was very pale. He frowned and ignored Ning Kaixian. He was also very flustered. There was such a big mistake, and the servant girl did not die. How could she not die? Didn't they talk well before? After those repeated words, he felt dizzy and jumped down. What happened next had nothing to do with him. The more Wang Xingxue thought about it, the more confused he became and could not help but scold her. "Why did you let others see your face?" I don't know. I've been very careful, but I didn't expect that I would be noticed." Ning Kaixian burst into tears when she heard the question. Tears fell down her cheeks, and she looked at Wang Xingxue with tears in her eyes. "I should have taken the responsibility just now, but I didn't expect to be caught. I accidentally said something. You don't blame me. When I'm interrogated next time, I'll take all the responsibility." "Why did you take responsibility for everything?" Wang Xingxue said angrily. Ning Kaixian cried, "I told you that I turned my love into hatred. Seeing that young Master Yen didn't love me but this servant girl and hooked up with her, I came up with such a plan. I'll take all the responsibility, and you'll be fine." Her words were quite affectionate. Looking at Ning Kaixian's tear-stained face, Wang Xingxue sighed and looked a little relaxed. "What's the use of saying this now? It's useful to say it earlier." "Say it earlier? Are you really going to let me take responsibility for everything?" Ning Kaixian sneered secretly, but still showed a look of regret on her face. I was scared at that time. Once I was scared, I panicked. Whatever they asked, I told them. I'm sorry. I will insist that I did it next time and won't have anything to do with you." Wang Xingxue stretched out his hand over the fence between the two temporary cells and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "You can say so in the next trial. She is your maid, and she originally bought a death contract with you. Moreover, she is fine in the end. Even if you, the master, are at a disadvantage, it is not a big deal." "Is it really not a big deal?" Ning Kaixian was surprised and delighted. "Of course, it's not a big deal. She's just a maid with a death contract, and she's still alive. But after this, I think I'll ask you to release her and compensate you with some money. But don't be afraid, money isn't a problem. I'll help you pay it back. After this, I'll marry you. Then we'll leave the capital and find a nice place to live. Wang Xingxue coaxed her softly. At first, Ning Caishian's words sounded whimsical, but when he thought about it carefully, it might be a way out. If Ning Caishian took the responsibility, he would be fine, and what he had said before could be completely overturned. At that time, he said so to protect Ning Caishian and take the responsibility for her. Now that Ning Caishian had said it, of course, he was innocent. You? Are you really going to marry me? Ning Caishian said with tears in her eyes. Of course, I'm going to marry you. I've always wanted to marry you. At this time, Wang Xingxue certainly heard everything. He stretched over the fence with difficulty, held Ning Caishian in his arms, and gently brushed a strand of hair in front of her forehead behind her ear. His eyes were full of affection, as if Ning Caishian was really his most beloved. But sister. Ning Caishian lowered her head to hide the sarcasm and anger in her eyes. Wang Xingxue really thought so. Originally, she just said that and pretended to be aggrieved and let Wang Xingxue bear all the responsibility. She didn't expect that Wang Xingxue actually had the same idea and wanted her to bear this matter. Could she bear this matter? Wang Xingxue thought he didn't know anything, but he didn't expect that when he was in prison at that time, an old maid was in prison next door, and it was a similar thing. That old maid beat her servant girl until she was disabled, and the servant girl's family sued the old maid. The old maid also argued in this way, saying that this servant girl had an irrevocable contract. Even if she was beaten to death, no one would care, let alone being disabled. That being said, this irrevocable contract did not stand up to scrutiny. It was said that the irrevocable contract had been signed less than half a year ago. After the old maid bought it home, she either beat or scolded the servant girl every day. It was obvious that she harbored evil intentions and wanted to beat the servant girl to death. Otherwise, an ordinary family would not buy an irrevocable contract when buying a servant girl and pay several times the price. This was to buy the servant girl's life. This matter was disputed for a long time. On the one hand, it was said that no one died in the irrevocable contract, and on the other hand, it was said that the old maid intended to kill the servant girl. The result of the dispute between the two parties for a long time was that the old maid was sentenced to exile. Ning Caishian bought this servant girl for less than half a year. The irrevocable contract was also divided into years. Even though this servant girl did not die, the matter of plotting against young Master Yan was probably not enough to be sentenced to exile. After all, Yan Shi was a Juzi who went to the capital city to take the imperial examination. Once he was selected, he would become an official. Ning Caishian did not dare to bet on this kind of thing. She could not take responsibility for this matter, and Wang Xingxue must take responsibility for it. She thought so in her heart, but she still said affectionately, "My sister is also yours now." How can I marry you? Don't worry, I always have you in my heart. It was like this before, and it is still like this now. It has always been only you. Xueqing is just a concubine now, and she can't control whether I want to marry or not. When you marry me, you can also help Xueqing manage the household. It is also a good thing for you two sisters to marry me together. Wang Xingxue comforted Ning Caishian. Now he would say whatever was pleasant to hear. His eyes were full of affection, which was not inferior to Ning Caishian's. Now the two of them looked more like a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. The two of them stared at each other with tears in their eyes and were speechless. When such a scene and such words fell into the eyes and ears of some observant people, they would have a different feeling. Ning Xueqing was so angry that her whole body trembled, and she almost could not control herself from rushing over and beating Ning Caishian hard. It turned out to be Ning Caishian, this bitch. She had helped this bitch and rescued her, but she did not help her marry Wang Xingxue as she wished. Instead, she became Wang Xingxue's concubine. Thinking of this, Ning Xueqing wanted to tear Ning Caishian apart. It was Ning Kaixian who asked her to help Wang Xingxue at that time. She said that helping Wang Xingxue could make him feel grateful. After that, she would definitely ask Wang Xingxue to marry her. Unexpectedly, she failed to frame Xiao Wanru. Not only was Wang Xingxue reprimanded, but she also became a concubine. At the thought of this, Ning Xueqing gritted her teeth with hatred. Why did she believe what Ning Kaixian said at that time? If Ning Kaixian was a feasible woman, how could she have fallen into such a situation at that time? After that, Ning Qingxue did not pay attention to Ning Kaixian anymore and lost contact with her. She did not expect to see Ning Kaixian here, and what was more unexpected was that Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian were actually together. Judging from their words, Wang Xingxue wanted to marry Ning Kaixian, and Ning Kaixian pretended to care about her. What a shameless couple. The handkerchief in her hand was tightly crumpled into a ball, and she didn't move. Seeing this, the maid cleverly took out another pouch and handed it to the jailer who led the way. The jailer looked at it and didn't say anything. He took the pouch and stuffed it into his arms, and simply watched the show without saying a word. The jailer had just taken over the job. He originally thought that the two of them would be locked up far away, but he didn't expect that the two of them would be locked up so close, which saved him a lot of trouble. It didn't matter if he watched one or two of them. Anyway, he didn't lose anything. The place where the two of them were standing happened to be at the corner. Under the dim yellow light, no one noticed that there was someone here. Wang Xingxue and Ning Kaixian didn't notice it either. Their attention was now on each other, so neither of them noticed Ning Xueqing, who was standing in the shadow at the corner. You have been treating me like this for a long time. I don't know. Ning Kaixian was so moved that she cried again. She held Wang Xingxue's hand tightly as if she were grasping the last life-saving straw. In fact, I had a good impression of you at first, but at that time, Di Yan was still there, and Xueqing was clinging to me. It was not convenient for me. Otherwise, Di Yan wouldn't have been involved at that time, and you wouldn't have fallen into such a situation. Later, Xueqing also begged me to help you escape. As soon as I heard that it was about you, I had to help you no matter what. Wang Xingxue's words became smoother and smoother, and the affection in his eyes became more and more affectionate. My sister will be angry, Ning Kaixian said while thinking of an idea in her mind. Why should she be angry? She is just a concubine. Does she really think that I will harm her, a concubine, to live? What will others think of me? How can I socialize with a decent family? Wang Xingxue said with a straight face. Ning Xueqing trembled with anger in the shadow. These two shameless men and women have hooked up with each other long ago. Ning Kaixian looked up at Wang Xingxue affectionately with her beautiful eyes and said while shedding tears, I will listen to you. I have been mine for a long time. If I don't marry you, who else can I marry? Wang Xingxue nodded randomly and said, I know. Don't worry, I won't betray you. Xueqing will be happy to be my concubine. You are her elder sister, so she, as your younger sister, naturally has to be your younger sister for a lifetime. This last sentence was the last straw that broke Ning Xueqing's heart. She suddenly rushed over and said, Ning Kaixian, you are so shameless. You hooked up with another man before you got married. You gave your body to him before you got married, and the one you hooked up with is your brother-in-law. You are so dirty. While speaking, Ning Xueqing had rushed to the door of the cell and slapped Ning Kaixian hard in the face behind the bars. Chapter 986. Bitch, why don't you go to hell? Ning Xueqing was so angry that her face turned red. She grabbed Ning Kaixian's hair, dragged her over, and gave her 2 hard slaps. She also exerted all her strength, so Ning Kaixian's nose and the corners of her mouth were bleeding immediately, and she was in a sorry state. Wang Xingxue was also stunned. He did not expect that Ning Xueqing would suddenly appear. He was a little ashamed at first, but when he saw Ning Kaixian being dragged by her hair and beaten violently, his face darkened. Ning Xueqing is just a concubine. Does she really want to control me? Wang Xingxue reprimanded her. Let go of her. What a scandal. Ning Xueqing was so angry that her whole body trembled. She grabbed Ning Caixian's hair and refused to let go. She turned to Wang Xingxue with a sneer and said, "What a scandal. How can it be a scandal to seduce your wife's elder sister? What nonsense are you talking about?" Seeing that the jailer on the side was still watching the scene, Wang Xingxue felt embarrassed. Don't you know whether I'm talking nonsense or not? What's the relationship between you two? When did you get so close? Now even she belongs to you. Why didn't I know that? Didn't you say you were helping my uncle? Ning Xueqing said harshly, still pulling Ning Caixian's hair tightly to the fence, making Ning Caixian struggle to break free from her hand. What nonsense are you talking about? Wang Xingxue shouted and interrupted Ning Xueqing. Then he looked relaxed and said, "Go back first. I'll explain it to you when I get back." He had recovered his former softness when he said this. You and her are like this now. What else can I say? Ning Xueqing said angrily. She loosened her hand, and Ning Caixian rolled inside with her head in her arms, finally avoiding Ning Xueqing's hand. Ning Caixian wiped her face with her hand. Seeing the blood on her sleeve, she was angry and resentful. She glared at Ning Xueqing and said in a sharp voice, "Ning Xueqing, are you crazy?" "I'm not crazy, but I'm going to be driven crazy by you soon. My good elder sister has an affair with my brother-in-law behind my back, and they even rolled together. Don't you have any shame? Do you have any sense of propriety and shame?" Ning Xueqing raised the corner of her mouth sarcastically. Looking at the flustered Ning Caixian, she felt very relieved. The more embarrassed Ning Caixian was, the happier Ning Xueqing was. Thinking of what they had just said when they were so affectionate, Ning Xueqing felt as if she had swallowed a fly. "Xueqing, go back first. It's not what you think." Wang Xingxue stretched out his hand to pull Ning Xueqing's sleeve, but Ning Xueqing shook him off fiercely. "It's not what I think it is. If I had heard with my own ears that she had shamelessly given herself to you, and you had promised to let her be your legal wife, saying that you had fallen in love with her a long time ago, and now you married me just because you couldn't marry her, Wang Xingxue, you are so kind. Not only did you help." Ning Xueqing gnashed her teeth and said. Her voice was sharp and resounding, startling many people in the cell. Gradually, other prison heads came over. The jailer who was watching the show couldn't stand it anymore. "Are you done watching? If you're done, you can leave. If you disturb someone, I won't be able to bear the consequences." "Officer, please wait a minute." Wang Xingxue hurriedly came forward and said. Then he turned to Ning Xueqing and said, "Xueqing, go back first. It's not what you think. Go to Marquis Xing's mansion and ask my uncle to think of a way to figure out this matter." As Wang Xingxue spoke, he winked at Ning Xueqing. If it were in the past, with such a look, Ning Xueqing would immediately understand that he asked her to go to Marquis Xing's mansion to inform them. But now, Ning Xueqing didn't understand at all. Thinking of what Ning Caixian and Wang Xingxue had said just now, she snorted and said, "I won't go. It has nothing to do with me." "How can it have nothing to do with me? You are my wife, and we are husband and wife." Wang Xingxue hurriedly comforted her. "If we are husband and wife, then what is she? Is she your lover or the mistress you keep outside? For the sake of a cheap mistress, you even abandoned your wife and got her into prison. Wang Xingxue, you are really promising." Ning Xueqing sneered and didn't intend to let them go so easily. Since Wang Xingxue admitted that she was his wife, it was reasonable for her to say that. Ning Caixian was ashamed and angry. Not only had she been humiliated by Ning Xueqing, but the other people in the cell had also been alarmed. Now, hearing Ning Xueqing call her mistress and lover, she was so angry that she said in a shrill voice, ignoring the blood on her face, "Wang Xingxue, is she your wife or me? What did you promise me? She is just a concubine who can be bought and sold. How dare you talk nonsense? Ning Xueqing was so angry that she reached out to pull her hair again. Ning Kaixian had hidden inside early. Seeing her come over, she became louder and louder. She had been very panicked when she was locked up. After being made such a scene by Ning Xueqing, she was about to break down. Ning Xueqing, you are a concubine. Am I wrong? You and Wang Xingxue listened to Madame of Marquis Xing's words and plotted against 5th Miss Xiao. In the end, you ended up being a concubine in the Wang's mansion. How can a concubine have the face to control men? Ning Kaixian, don't talk nonsense. Her words made Wang Xingxue panic and hurriedly say. You know whether I am talking nonsense or not. At that time, my good sister also asked me for my opinion and told me that you too listened to Madame of Marquis Xing's words and said that you would definitely be taken care of by Madame of Marquis Xing in the future and go straight to the top in the future. Ning Kaixian sneered loudly. Now she was ready to risk everything. Ning Kaixian, no matter how you talk nonsense, you can't get away with the current crime. Ning Xueqing was panicking. She hurriedly lowered her voice and rebuked Ning Xueqing in a low voice. How could she say such words in front of others? She was so angry that her face turned red and her hair was disheveled, which made Ning Xueqing look more like a mad woman. Ning Xueqing, are you afraid? You are afraid. You two collude with each other and have been helping Marquis Xing's mansion to harm 5th Miss Xiao, who is now Princess Chen. At that time, you repeatedly tried to ruin her reputation and drive her out of Marquis Xing's mansion. Isn't it because Marquis Xing has taken a fancy to that title and doesn't want to return it to the first branch? Ning Caishian's voice became sharper and sharper, and she had long lost the dignity of a miss from an aristocratic family. Kaixian, don't talk nonsense. Speak nicely. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Everything will be fine. Uncle will save us, and I will also save you. Wang Xingxue rushed to the partition between the two of them, shook the partition hard, and comforted Ning Kaixian, who had lost control of her emotions, in a low voice. Big sister, you are not going to get out of here, are you? Ning Xueqing's voice also lowered and sounded a little gloomy and cold. If these words were heard by Princess Chen, they would not be able to live a good life. You are afraid. Are you afraid? You too. Ha ha ha, does Prince Chen know that you have harmed Princess Chen together? Now you ask Ning Xueqing to go to Marquis Xing's mansion. Why? Could it be Marquis Xing's idea this time? Wang Xingxue, you have done so many things for Marquis Xing, so he may not necessarily help you now. Ning Kaixian laughed wildly. The two of them lowered their voices, but she did not lower her voice. Instead, her voice became even more crazy and arrogant. The commotion was so big that it had already alerted other people in the Ministry of Justice. Several officials came over with bailiffs. They wanted to stop the three people, but they didn't expect that they would hear this. They stopped for a while and listened quietly. As more and more people came to see them, Ning Xueqing, who had been calm, also panicked. If these things were spread to Prince Chen's mansion, it would be terrible. The Princess Chen in front of them was not the 5th Miss Xiao in the past. Big sister, what good will it do you to talk nonsense like this? Can't we calm down and talk about it? If the chief official of the Ministry of Justice is alarmed, you can hardly escape punishment at that time. Ning Xueqing said in a soft voice and looked at Ning Kaixian with a little pleading eyes. At this time, she also regretted rushing in recklessly and driving Ning Kaixian crazy. If she had known that Ning Kaixian would be so crazy, she would not have directly taken action at that time. I want to see Princess Chen. Guards, I want to see Princess Chen. I have something to say to her. Ning Kaixian ignored Ning Xueqing's show of weakness, walked to the other side, shook the fence hard, and screamed. Kaixian, you are crazy. Wang Xingnan shouted in horror. He only hated that he could not catch Ning Kaixian at this time. Otherwise, he would beat her until she could not even speak. I am not crazy. It is you who are crazy. You will suffer retribution for following Madam of Marquis Xing to harm Princess Chen, Ning Kaixian said in a shrill voice. At the beginning, she did lose control of her emotions and seemed to be on the verge of a breakdown. But at this time, she became a little sober and felt that the current situation was not necessarily a bad idea. Wang Xingxue wanted to put all the blame on her. If she did not want to bear it, she had to find another way. Wang Xingxue might ask Marquis Xing for help, and in the end, this matter might really fall on her. She had no one behind her, but if she could use these things to please Princess Chen, she might be able to help her. After all, what happened before was indeed instigated by Wang Xingxue, and it had little to do with her. She just did it because of Wang Xingxue. The more she thought about this idea, the better it was, and the more she felt that this was the only way to save herself. She shook the fence in her hand hard and looked longingly at the official of the Ministry of Justice standing outside. Your Excellency, please let me see Princess Chen. I will definitely tell Princess Chen what they have done. It is Marquis Xing's mansion who wants to ruin Princess Chen and drive her away. Ning Kaixian, what are you talking about? Seeing this situation, Ning Xueqing knew that it was not good. She turned around and ran to the fence near Ning Kaixian. She could not let Ning Kaixian talk nonsense here. But after running a few steps, she heard the official of the Ministry of Justice say coldly, "Guards, bring all three of them out." Chapter 987. Is what you said true? It's all true. The two of them have been framing Princess Chen. At the beginning, before Princess Chen officially returned to her family, they followed the instruction of Madam of Marquis Xing and secretly dealt with Princess Chen, intending to ruin her so that she could not return to her family. Ning Kaixian knelt in the hall and loudly testified against Wang Xingxue and Ning Xueqing. She had mentioned Marquis Xing when she was in a state of confusion. Now, of course, she did not dare to mention Marquis Xing and only mentioned Madam of Marquis Xing, "Big sister, I know you want to marry my husband and can't bear to see us together. But even if you marry him now, my relationship with him can't be broken. Big sister, do you really want to drive me to death? Give up the position to you? What good will it do you?" Ning Xueqing knelt beside her and looked at her with tears in her eyes. At this time, she looked completely different from the way she had crazily beaten up Ning Kaixian. She looked both gentle and sad. As a poor woman whose husband was robbed by her elder sister, she did a good job and made people sympathize with her. Ning Kaixian bit her lip. She understood Ning Xueqing's words. She was implying that it was not good for her to say such words. Not only would she not get Wang Xingxue's love, but she would also be detested. Without this case, Ning Kaixian would not have said such words. If she said such words, it would be impossible for her and Wang Xingxue to be together. But she had to say it. Even if it was to get rid of this case, she had to say it. Ning Xueqing did not know what had happened this time and thought that she could be controlled by such words. "Second sister, you lied to me, and so did Wang Xingxue. You cheated me of everything and made me think that he would marry me, but it turned out to be a trap. In this case, why did you say such words again?" Ning Kaixian cried loudly. She had already stopped thinking about other things and only wanted to get out of the prison of the Ministry of Justice. She turned her head and kowtowed to the two officials above, testifying, "Officials, it was also Wang Xingxue who instructed me to do this. He said that he wanted to harm child Yan Shi, so he asked me to show up and pretend to be a woman in distress. I don't know what kind of grudge he has with this young Master Yan. I only know that the two of them have never met before. The first time they met, I was there." "Is this the first time we've met?" Qiu Yu asked coldly. "Yes, it must be the first time they met." When Wang Xingxue met young Master Yan, it could be seen from the way they talked and their movements that it was the first time, Ning Kaixian said with certainty. Since it's the first time, they haven't met each other and there is no grudge between them, why would Wang Shengsuexu harm a person he has never met? Qiu Yu slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "Wang Shengsuexu." Things happened so fast that Wang Xingxue had no time to react. Now he was in the court of the Ministry of Justice, and Ning Kaixian, who was affectionate in the past, directly accused him of murdering Princess Chen and Yan Shi. I'm jealous that Marquis Xing thinks highly of Yan Shi. Wang Xingxue stammered. Since you have never met him, how do you know that there is such a person who has been waiting for a long time and set up a trap? Qiu Yu slammed his hand on the table and said, if you can't explain it clearly, you will be punished severely. No, I heard from Marquis Xing before that he would come to the capital city. Before he arrived in the capital city, Marquis Xing had prepared a lot of things. I am the nephew of Marquis Xing, but I am not as good as him, who has nothing to do with me. I can't accept it. Wang Xingxue calmed down, gritted his teeth secretly, and used the words he had prepared to deal with it. In fact, these words were taught to him early. When he learned them before, he did not pay much attention to them. He had thought that he would not use them anyway, but he did not expect to use them so soon. It was all Ning Kaixian's fault. He glared at Ning Kaixian fiercely. If he had known this, he would not have been soft-hearted and let Ning Kaixian fight directly. At that time, it would be Ning Kaixian who would die, and there would be no such thing today. Are you jealous of a person you have never met? Qiu Yu said coldly. I was also obsessed at that time. I just wanted Marquis Xing to pay more attention to me. As Wang Xingxue said, he also kowtowed a few times, looking regretful. So, it was really because of jealousy? Qiu Yu could not make up his mind, so he looked at Wen Shiqi beside him. Wen Shiqi happened to be there, so he asked him to come over and listen. This case should have been Qiu Yu's business. Although Wang Xingxue's explanation was forced, it was not without reason. There were many cases in the Ministry of Justice, and some people were so paranoid that they did things that were against reason. Ning Kaixian, do you have evidence that they conspired to murder Princess Chen? Wen Shiqi looked at Ning Kaixian indifferently and asked. I don't. Hearing the question, Ning Kaixian said anxiously. Now she had broken up with Wang Xingxue and Ning Xueqing, so she certainly didn't want them to get away with it. If they got away with it, she would definitely not get away with it. Since you don't have evidence, you are making a slanderous accusation. In addition to this crime, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to get away with it. The servant girl is also your servant girl, and it is also you who keeps the servant girl alive in the end. Wang Xingxue is the mastermind, and you are also the mastermind. You can't get away with the crime. But if someone protects you, things will be different. Wen Shiqi said indifferently. His expression was extremely indifferent and calm. He was just stating a fact. Ning Kaixian turned her head to look at Ning Xueqing, who was suppressing her hatred, and Wang Xingxue, who glared at her from time to time. She shivered all over. She was guilty, but Wang Xingxue could be protected by Marquis Xing. In the end, most of the responsibility would fall on her. Your Excellency, although I don't have evidence, I know some of their previous plots. If no one told me, how could I know? In fact, I was not in the capital city at that time. Ning Kaixian gritted her teeth and said. At this time, she could not retreat. Even if she had to bite the bullet, she had to bite the bullet. If Wang Xingxue took more responsibility, she would be less responsible. Your Excellency, when Princess Chen returned to her family, something happened. A woman wore Princess Chen's clothes that day and met Wang Xingxue secretly. Then she jumped into the water and swam far away, so that no one could catch up with her. The purpose was to make people misunderstand that Princess Chen was unclean. If it hadn't been for an accident, the woman would have worn this set of clothes and gone to the courtyard where Princess Chen lived. At that time, they calculated the time when Princess Chen was taking a bath. The clansmen of the Shao clan followed the woman's water trail and would definitely find Princess Chen's courtyard. The same clothes would be changed after taking a bath and then thrown into the basin of water. Even if they weren't washed, they would be wet. In this way, Princess Chen would be ruined. Before the uprising, Ning Kaixian knew something about this matter. Later, Wang Xingxue told her about it in detail. At that time, Wang Xingxue still couldn't figure out why the fire suddenly broke out and ruined Madame of Marquis Xing's plan. If it hadn't been for the fire, things would not have turned out like this. Speaking of this matter, Wang Xingxue also regretted it. In the end, he still couldn't figure out why such a perfect plan failed in the end. In the end, he brought Xiao Wanru's maid, Dongxing, into his mansion, and even Ning Xueqing became a concubine. Your Excellency, they plotted against Princess Chen. They not only wanted to ruin Princess Chen's reputation, but also wanted to kill her. At that time, the clansmen of the Xiao clan were all there. If Princess Chen was really plotted against by Wang Xingxue at that time, the clansmen of the Xiao clan would definitely execute Princess Chen overnight. Even if Ruyan Great Elder Princess knew it later, it would be too late. When they were in love, Wang Xingxue told her everything. Ning Kaixian said it clearly and logically. After that, she kowtowed a few times and said, I was not in the capital at that time. If Wang Xingxue hadn't told me, how could I have known it so clearly? The details can't be heard outside. Although there were rumors outside, the details were indeed not as clear as Ning Caixian's. When Shiqi's face turned cold. He had always been gentle and kind to others, and had never shown such a cold expression. Qiu Yu looked at him in surprise. Since Princess Chen and Madame of Marchioness Xing are involved in this matter, ask someone to bring Madame of Marchioness Xing here. Let's go to see Princess Chen and ask if it was true at that time. When Shiqi said. Just based on what she said, we can bring Madame of Marchioness Xing here. Qiu Yu was stunned for a moment and did not understand. Madame of Marchioness Xing was a noble madam with a high rank. Wasn't it too rash to bring her here just based on what Ning Kaixian said? Anything related to Princess Chen is not a trivial matter. Before Prince Chen went on a diplomatic mission, he broke the hand of second young Master Chu. When Shiqi said lightly. As soon as he said this, Qiu Yu felt that his hand also hurt. Of course, he knew Chu's second. Although the two of them were in different circles, they were both noble people, so how could they not be familiar with each other? Chu's second was the lineal grandson of Ruiping Great Elder Princess, whose status was much higher than his. This Prince Chen could not be provoked. This Prince Chen was very good to Princess Chen. This Prince Chen would not care who the other party was when he took action. Putting these points together, Qiu Yu immediately understood. He straightened up and nodded. Okay, ask someone to bring Madame of Marchioness Xing here. As for Duke Xing, Marchioness Xing should also be informed. Madame of Marchioness Xing is his wife. Does he really know nothing about what Madame of Marchioness Xing is planning, or does he have other secrets? If something happens to Princess Chen, who will benefit the most? When Shiqi reminded him. Well, let's do it. Qiu Yu's eyes lit up, and he immediately understood the meaning of Wen Shiqi's words. If Marchioness Xing really wanted to deal with Princess Chen, it would be a big case. He did not expect that such a trivial matter could lead to such a big case. The original matter was a trivial matter, and it could not be investigated clearly. Now the most important thing was to investigate the framing of Princess Chen. Go and bring the concubines from Wang Xing's academy here. I will go to Prince Chen's mansion to see Princess Chen and ask her about this. When Shiqi said.